across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Just gone 6 o'clock. What is it? It's Tuesday, the 28th of July. This is JK on Breakfast. You would talk, of course. Tell your friends, because it's growing like you wouldn't believe. I'm talking about the show. It is, of course, the home of common sense and the home of you, my dear friends, the Alarm Clock Brits. We'll go through what you're waking up to. We got Benedict Spence, a whole array of guests. The A-team are in the building. And Tommy, who yesterday suggested that my new show, well, my new building, Talk North, should be in Talk North Korea, which I thought was genius. He's taking your calls, 0344 499 1000. You can call, you can leave that voice note. We missed out on Angry Rob yesterday. He sent us a message, the quality was crap, we haven't heard from him. Angry Rob, you need to be #1 today. What have I got today? It's just a banana, nothing else at all. Somebody said that to me once, but that's another story. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Before we start, I used to work with this lady quite a lot, Holly Willoughby. She's very nice. Not great. She launched a new YouTube channel yesterday. The write-up's not great. It says, Holly's dire new show makes Meghan Markle look good. That's not a great start. That's not going to make Holly very happy this morning. Anyway, more of that. But most of all, what are you waking up to? And there is a serious story, and this is one that came out yesterday, and I'm really strong on this for all sorts of reasons. Reform UK have reported Zach Polanski, or Dave, to the police for sharing a photo of a T-shirt about Nigel Farage's execution. Polanski shared the image of an unknown man making the peace symbol to his 713,000 followers. The man's T-shirt showed a guillotine. I think there might have been blood on the guillotine as well, with the slogan, "We're only making plans for Nigel." I am not showing it at all. It is utterly disgusting. And whether you think it's just social media, right, and Reform, police have confirmed they're looking into it. Imagine, my dear friends, if the boot was on the other foot and anybody from the right of British politics had done that, there would be an absolute outrage. Zach, though, is in trouble, of course. Yesterday, the polls were showing that he's about from 18 to 8%. I think the bubble has burst because the left is probably rowing in behind Burnham. But is this a resigning matter for Dave, the tit whisperer Polanski? 0344 499 1000. Talking about polls, Professor John Curtis here later. Yesterday, a new poll for the first time in I don't know how long put Labour ahead of Reform. The More in Common poll found 28% would vote for Labour for general election. This is the Burnham bounce. Your thoughts? Is this the Burnham bounce? Is the Reform bubble burst? What's going on with Reform? Robert Jenrick, who's been very vocal throughout the summer, will be on this show later on. We'll put that to him. Another Burnham announcement, and again I find myself slightly confused. In a bid to tackle youth unemployment, Andy Burnham will today argue that Blair's drive to get half of school leavers to attend university has let down a generation of young people seeking technical qualifications. Sorry, couldn't agree more. I don't think every kid at 16 should go to college or university. I don't actually disagree that you should go and get an apprenticeship or you should go to work. We'll discuss that. I mean, is it cracked up to what it is supposed to be? Does it help you? Are there too many universities? Love your thoughts on that. 0344 499 1000. And just if you were getting on the right side of Burnham, there are fears this morning that he will try to impose a death tax, which will mean 10% on anything you've saved and anything you want to give to the next generation. So if you've got to my age, spend the whole bloody lot. This is, though, my favourite two stories of the morning. We always have a little bit of lighter-heartedness, because, Christ, it's very depressing. Oh, look, Andrew Ridley's just walked into Virgin Radio. Great. I don't want your... Shut up. A Palestinian protester... This is great. In a way, it's great, and in a way, it's not. Who scaled Big Ben last year to avoid jail. Daniel Day... Really? I bet he was all left foot. Shut up, Jez. It's too early. Was given a suspended sentence after sitting on Elizabeth Tower for 17 hours and costing the taxpayer nearly £100,000. But the judge said that Day, who is unemployed, had not offended since the Big Ben incident, and he had strong personal mitigation. Do you know what it was? He had crap eyesight. Honestly, a judge has gone, we'll let you off for scaling Big Ben because you've got bad eyesight. He thought he was actually climbing a ladder. So that's for true. And the only other story that's great today is the front page of the Current one. Look at that. It's Mandy Burnham, a chaplain. A female chaplain called Emma Roberts is claiming to be a dead ringer for Andy Burnham. So much she's calling herself Mandy Burnham on TikTok. Whoever thought a vicar would get into TikTok? Big question this morning. Who have you been told you look like? Seriously, 87222. Who have you been told you look like? 87222. All of that and more. And we say a very good morning to a man who's come dressed in a linen suit. Benedict Spence. That's sort of sick colour, isn't it?
Tobacco.
Tobacco? Is that what you call it? I want a tobacco linen suit.
What colour is your vomit? What have you been eating?
Depends if I've had a curry or not.
Well, OK. You had a big night out, didn't you?
Can you just imagine if you just tuned in to hear Benedict Spence, the Conservative commentator, go, what's the colour of your vomit then, Jess? How are you, dear boy?
I'm all right. Oh, I'm much better than I was under Keir Starmer. Strangely enough, everything feels a little bit more upbeat. I know it's going to go wrong, but if nothing else, Andy Burnham is better at the optics. He's managing to... He is,
and we had this yesterday, and it's not in any way me softening, because there was apparently people talked about this yesterday. There's another radio station, I'm not going into it, where the particular presenter just hates anybody that's not left-wing, said that all the right will do when Burnham stands up and tries to be constructive is just find ways of going, how are you going to pay for it? But I would very much suspect, certainly the people that listen to this station, who are sick to the back teeth of paying ridiculous amounts of tax, would absolutely want to know where the bloody money's coming from.
TalkSport really has changed its tune in recent weeks, hasn't it? That's got a bit weird. Now that the World Cup's over, they've got nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do. Let's start with the main story of the day. Reform UK reporting Zach Polansky to the police for sharing a photo, I'm not showing it, of a T-shirt depicting Nigel Farage's execution. The T-shirt showed a guillotine with the slogan, "We're only making plans for Nigel with blood." The Met Police confirming they're looking into it. Zach Polansky, I said yesterday, has lost half of his audience. Still in that television shit, am I? Excuse my friend. Anyway, the point is, Zach Polansky is already on the back foot. Now, what is this? How bad is this?
Well, I think we need to remember, there are going to be people who are saying that Polansky is losing ground because Andy Burnham's sort of hoovering up his support, but it was happening before Andy Burnham became Prime Minister, and this is because, and many people said this, listen, the Greens may seem kind of scary, but give them enough airtime and people will listen to what they say and realise, oh, these people are actually half-wits.
Yes.
That's what's happened here. That's why they have dropped quite so much in the polls. They've lost more than half, most people estimate, of their support. And that is because the sort of people that now are sort of in charge of the Green Party are not the sort of loony variety that say, oh, the planet is cooking and
haven't mentioned a tree. Has Zach Polansky ever mentioned a tree or a blade of glass?
Not as far as
blade of glass. Bro, well done, Jez. That's another story.
Yeah, but no, that's not what they're doing. They've been talking a lot about Gaza and wealth taxes and all that kind of thing. But no, that was always going to be the issue. And, you know, for as long as Zach Polansky was there and he was the leader, sooner or later people would look at him and go, I'm sorry, are we being serious? Is this actually what's going on?
Is he toast?
I think he is. I don't think he'll resign, put it that way. I don't think he's going anywhere because, as much as anything else, there's not enough pressure on him to resign because it's not a major party. I know that people like to think that, you know, this was the opportunity to sort of...
Well, they put themselves... I mean, before Burnham arrived, the scary prospect was that they could tie up with somebody like Starmer and the Labour Party and do the right wing out of the next government. But Burnham...
We can't take that as a serious prospect until Labour's polling starts to ebb away.
Well, let's talk about this. So, Zach Polansky, what do you make of it, team? 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. The Mail, page 2. For the first time in, I don't know, more than a year, the Labour Party, Burnham bounce scenes Labour leapfrog reform in polls. Labour has jumped ahead of Reform UK in the national polls for the first time in more than a year as voters respond well to Andy Burnham as Prime Minister. Now, let's not be too cynical.
Well, we were on this show last week and we were saying, actually, we want him to sort of succeed. Fundamentally, you know, you want your Prime Minister to do well. And what we have to admit is that he is much better at the optics than Keir Starmer was. Keir Starmer came in on the first day and said, prisons are overcrowded, so I'm going to release lots of prisoners. And then within a couple of days, it was, oh, there's a giant black hole sucking in all the money at the core of the economy. And we don't know how big it is, but we're going to have to find the money to feed it, to sort of, you know, satiate it. And everybody was sat there going, well, this is dreadful. How long is it going to take? And he went, 10 years. And everybody's going, oh, great, 10 years.
Yes.
10 years of releasing prisoners.
There was no positivity, was there?
Absolutely nothing that was positive.
And you're right about the optics. I mean, he is politically adept.
Much
However, I consider it absolutely talks responsibility, because most of the mainstream media are blowing smoke up Andy Burnham's backside, to ask the questions, which is, it's all well and good to promise this, that and t'other. How are you going to pay for it? And that is central, and it has to be central, doesn't it?
It does. And now the thing is, Burnham is sort of obfuscating about a lot of this because he was hoping he'd have more time. He thought, having knifed Keir Starmer, that Starmer would sort of stagger about for 3 months and not actually vacate and give him a bit of time to set everything up. But in fact, Starmer just went, no, I'm going to commit Harry straight away on the spot.
I really supported Starmer on that. If you're going to get rid of me, you can shove it. I'm not interested in your job.
He's absolutely right. He's within his right to do it. If the party has gone, right, we're going to use you as a sacrificial goat, he's going to go, right, well, you better get on with it then, hadn't you? The thing, of course, then, is you've got Burnham sort of scrabbling about going, oh, how am I going to fund this? But I can release lots and lots of very small announcements that, in of themselves, don't necessarily have to be costed, because at some point I might row back on them anyway. But if I need to pay for them, it's not going to be the end of the world in finding something to cut. Problem is, of course, if you end up with 10, 15, 20 of those, then all of a sudden it is rather a lot of money. So now we've got the situation where we're hearing interesting things. He's talking about maybe, you know, capping things like bus fares and things like that, where you think, oh, well, maybe sort of on a sort of a low level, that's going to make a lot of difference to people's lives. But we are going to get to the point in a couple of weeks where people are going, all right, this sounds lovely, where is the money going to come from? Because we've seen this show before. We're not idiots. We do understand that things need to be costed.
Can I pick you up on that? Because I think that, I made this point yesterday, I genuinely know, without being disrespectful, that a huge number of people across this country will simply go, oh, bus fares down. Why am I doing that northern accent again? Bus fares down to £2, VAT off electricity bills, this, that and t'other, it's going to be great. The fact is, it is our responsibility to say to those people, listen, the optics might be good, but look, I mean, you know, you have to consider the reality. There is a story on the front of every newspaper today, which you should all take note of. Burnham's 18 billion death tax nightmare fears that the PM will try to impose a 10% levy on all inheritances to fund social care. We're not talking, guys, get your ears open here, because we're not talking about, oh, the rich with the bit. We're talking about everybody. So I remember years and years ago going out with this girl, and her grandmother lived in Perranporth in Cornwall. She'd worked all her life, never put the heating on, so she could leave her house. It was worth 200 grand to her son, and it got eaten up with medical bills and whatever. People are going to have to pay, whether your house is 50 grand, 100 grand, a million, a 10% to pay for this. Are we prepared to do that? Do you think people will go, yeah, I'll do that?
No, especially given the state of the housing market at the moment, means that a lot of people don't actually know the value, the true value of properties. But that's also going to be quite difficult, because it's going to mean the government is going to have a lot of problems actually ascertaining how much people's assets are worth. If you don't know if there's potentially up to 100 grand discrepancy in parts of the country as to how much of property might be worth, because you can't move it, especially then if people are having to sell things, and then there's the whole market is flooded. But, you know, I actually do think it's only going to be a couple of weeks until people do realise of their own volition things aren't right, because we've reached that kind of crux point where the cost of living, this is so ironic, we used to talk about the cost of living crisis. That was years ago when it started coming along. It's not gone anywhere, it's only getting worse, and it is going to keep on getting worse on current trajectory. You can't turn around to people and say, oh, I'm making your life easier, but your bills are still going up.
And also, can we make the obvious point, right? You're essentially being asked to pay 10% tax on money that you've already been taxed on. And this is my argument, and has been my argument forever. Really happy to pay the tax that they say, but to the point where you end up... So there's no point in saving, there's no point in you might as well do it all up against a wall, which I think will increasingly happen. That doesn't help the social care situation in any way at all.
And also, I mean, it's always the thing, isn't it? You bring up the Laffer curve when it comes to taxation. Actually, often, if you tax people less, you'll end up making more money out of it, because they're less incentivised to hide their money.
Absolutely.
That's going to be the key thing. I don't think necessarily that if we're going to tax people, upon their deaths, I actually think it does need to be universal. What we currently got is a situation where we're told the rich pay a certain amount and nobody else pays anything. But that's not true. It's a lie, because, of course, with inflation and also sort of bands moving, more and more people are being sucked into it, as that they're going, but I'm not rich. I've never been rich. Why am I having to pay this? And they're being told, oh, actually, according to us, you are. That's not really fair if you're there.
That's like the people who say if you have one alcoholic drink a week, you're under the influence, isn't it? No, you have 3 glasses of wine in 7 days, you're an alcoholic.
Yes,
what am I? Jesus. I'm a raging alcoholic.
I've enjoyed that when you fill in the form sort of dutifully, saying, do you drink every day? No. Do you often drink a lot in a very short space of time? Oh, I go to the pub with my mates, 3 or 4 pints. Oh, binge drinking. You know,
well, I put down the other day maybe 5 or 6 glasses of red wine a week, a few fags. Sorry, yeah. It might as well be dead. I mean, literally the end of my life. I mean, there's no way you're ever getting anything. I think it's a really important point. I'd love to know what you think of that. A death duty, a death tax of 10% on all of us. Everything you've saved, everything you've wanted to pay for social care. Is it fair? 0344 499 1000. What do you make of the new Labour opinion poll ahead of reform for the first time in 12 months? Is this the beginning of the end of reform, or is this a mirage and a bounce? Do you see what I did there? 0344 499 1000. And also the story, the appalling story. Zach Polanski has been reported to the Metropolitan Police for sharing an image of a man wearing a T-shirt that basically, it's calling for the execution of Nigel Farage. There's blood on the guillotine. It's appalling. Oh, there's no blood. I was told there was blood. OK. Somebody said yesterday, all right, there isn't. There's a guillotine. It says we're only making plans for Nigel. The Green Party said he doesn't support it as he deleted the tweet. Well, why did he accept it in the first place? Cheers. Remember Ricky Jones, says Adrian Baird in Buckhurst Hill. Do you remember Ricky Jones? Not the guy who worked here. Labour councillor got away with calling for far-right throats to be cut almost a year ago. I remember that. We cannot be surprised at the escalation for calling for Nigel Farage. It is absolutely outrageous. Bills in Cheshire, Burnham bounces a mirage, no policy, no scrutiny, no hard interviews, no PMQ exposure and a free ride until the autumn, just super lightweight promises uncosted, which will never materialise. And we say up north is all wind and hiss. Did you know what that? Up north in Cheshire's not really up north, is it, Bill? It's the sort it's the sort of Windsor of the south, isn't it?
It's an enclave.
It's full of posh people. 0344 499 1000. Also, very quickly, we're going to get it all out there. In his bid to tackle youth unemployment, Andy Burnham will today argue that Blair's drive to get half the school leavers to attend university has let down a generation. He says he wants more kids to wear a hard hat. And here is maybe going to shock you. Completely and utterly agree. I think there are too many universities, too many colleges, too many second, third and fourth-rate courses that put students in complete debt that they never get to repay. And I do not believe it is the byword to a better job. Now, it's going to sound elitist, what I'm saying. Certainly, certain people, you know, doctors, that's different. But my point, I said this to you off air, was when I discovered that the University of Kiel, right, does a BA in marketing and you major in the brand Beckham. That is pathetically ridiculous, isn't it?
I can't believe that somebody would actively do that, pursue that, but that's sort of the point.
You should say what you said off air. I can't actually believe that there was a university in Kiel.
So you're sat there going, oh, I don't mean to sound sort of snobbish or elitist, and I'm going, well, I might as well plough straight on in
Kiel? Where the bloody hell's that?
Genuinely, I don't actually know where
it's on the motorway. When I used to go to Manchester to do the show, it's next to, it's sort of in between Stafford and Manchester, isn't it? On the left. Kiel services certainly were. Dodgy muffins. Anyway,
maybe at some point I'll come across it. But the problem is, yes, the debt is the worst thing. The debt is the worst thing. People were sold the idea, oh, this is the best loan you'll ever take out in your life. The interest is, negligible. It's obviously it's going to help you into a job. And then retrospectively, it's like, no, we can change the laws about this, and it's all going to suddenly then cost you a lot of money. And then people turn around and go, but it's fine because unless you get to a certain threshold, then you're not going to end up paying it. But if you do have the temerity to want to get over that threshold, then you will have to pay it, and it is rather expensive. But that's the thing. Most people, in fact, are not suited to that sort of life.
Absolutely, I agree.
This is not academia. It's not improving people's lives. It's not improving, those people's lives for certain. The issue with this that I would say, though, it's all very well saying, well, what we're going to do is we're going to get people into trades. We're going to get them into sort of,
apprenticeships,
stuff like that. That's fine. Except, of course, our current system is set up specifically to import as much cheap labour from overseas to do these jobs. So even if you train young people to do these things, they're going to be competing with people who've got many, many years of experience.
Close the border, then.
Wouldn't that be a nice thing?
Still haven't heard him say anything about the boat.
Exactly. Do you trust that he's going to do that?
No. Christian's very, very worried. Are our phones not working? Something's gone really, really wrong this morning. Where is it? No voice notes, no calls. I don't believe you've all buggered off. Are you all on holiday? Is anybody working? What's going on?
They're all alumni from the University of Kiel. They heard what I had to say and they thought, well, absolutely not.
They've left the country.
Yeah.
Are we not giving out radios to illegal migrants? If you're still an alarm clock brick, can you... What's going on with it this morning? Is there a problem technically? It seems very strange. 0344. Phone the show, because I don't think it's going through. Jez, I have an idea to help pay for social care. Stop paying bloody millions to illegal migrants. That would be a good idea, wouldn't it, says Margaret?
There are many, many things that we could stop paying money to, but that would certainly be one of them. I mean, there was this thing, wasn't there, yesterday, where it turns out we're going to be closing. We're actually quite good at science and technology in this country, and we have a telescope.
Is that why
can see
we've
very
closed
far,
the science and technology department?
amongst other things? But we're stopping paying the strongest telescope that the UK currently has. We're going to have to shut it, and it only costs about $2 million a year. And we're spending something like 5 times that per day on housing illegal migrants or something like that. Brilliant. Sat there going, oh, fantastic, that's exactly what we should do. We should just decide horizons aren't relevant because we have to pay to prop people up so they don't have to work.
Welcome to the Jeremy Carr Show, where apparently nobody can get hold of us. It's not... What, are the phones buggered, are they? There's something going on here. 0344 499. Let's just do it now while we're on air. Ring your mobile and see if it comes through. 0344 499. How the hell am I supposed to do this with no calls and no voice notes? Is it not working?
Shall I text you?
Yeah, text me if you could. Hello to Dave. He's no, that's not Polanski. 6:23. I'm furiously filling. It's not coming through. There's a problem with our phones, isn't there? There's definitely a problem with the phones. So, unless everybody's gone, I hate that, Jeremy Carr, I'm not listening anymore. One call has come through. Jim's in Hampshire. Well done, Jim. 0344 499 1000. Where are your bloody voice notes? It's Tuesday morning. We're back in 3.
To be here with you all in the heart of Manchester this Friday morning at the end of, you know, a fairly big week is just everything to me.
If I have to watch one more saccharine video of him pulling a pint or talking about his favourite bar snacks with John Healy, whatever mawkish, minimalising, utterly moronic, stupid bit of social media tidbit they're trying to throw to us, you know, the sugar to help the Marxist medicine go down.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:25. It's Tuesday morning. So we've ascertained there is not a problem with the with the phone system because the whole bloody board's lit up now like a Christmas tree. 0344 499 1000. There does, though, seem to be a problem with voice notes, but just keep going with those. Let's go to London Bridge. Christian, good morning.
Yeah, it's me. I'm sat in the room opposite you.
That's...
I'm just
Sorry.
I'm just testing the lines.
The voice of the... That's Christian. Why are you ringing... This whole show... Honestly, this is your fault.
It is.
You've turned up in your tobacco suit and everybody's buggered off to listen to Andrew Ridgeley. Do you want a song? Oh, no, we haven't got any music. Christian, get back to work.
I think I've got another call on the line.
All right, well, just get... This is not... Can you imagine this happening on any other show on Talk? No, that's why you should tune in here. Thank you, Christian. Good luck in prison. Let's go to Chris. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Well, I think the voice note system's buggered. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm driving at the minute. I'm a truck driver.
Oh, Have you got your Yorkie bar in the middle bit?
No, I haven't, but I'm 70 years old and I'm still having to work. That's how bad this country is at the moment.
72. That fills me with impression. Oh, God.
70. I'm 70, not 72, 70.
All right, don't have to be personal. 70 years of age and still grafting, son. That does sum it up, doesn't it, really?
Absolutely. But what I was ringing for, I saw this morning about this T-shirt that guy was wearing.
Yeah, Nigel
And
Farage.
I just think it's absolutely disgusting what's going on with these left-wing people putting stuff out like that.
I mean, if you are just waking up, Chris makes a salient point. This is Reform UK have reported Polanski, Dave, to the police after a photo of a T-shirt about Nigel Farage's execution. He shared the image of an unknown man. T-shirt said, well, there was a guillotine, and it said, we're only making plans for Nigel. The Green apparently deleted it. I'll tell you one thing, Chris, I do know. If anybody on the right had done anything like that, it would have been World War III, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. This is what I was thinking. I thought, yeah, if this had been the other way around. I mean, 2 weeks after our poor Anne Widdecombe was bludgeoned to death with an hammer 21 times, and they're putting stuff out like this on Instagram.
I suspect the police will just give him a warning, but I would love it if they did more, because I think you're absolutely spot on. Where are you headed then, Christoph? Where are you?
I'm on the M180 at the minute, and I'm on my way down to Lincolnshire, down to Boston and then Peterborough.
Oh, where from? Where have you come from up north?
From there, just near Gold.
Hull?
Oh, yeah.
I went there once. Nice. You might have heard the show yesterday. We're going to take Talk North. Talk North. Where do you think I should set it up? Do you think Hull would be a good place?
I think you should do it in my back garden, actually.
Have you got a big back garden?
Yeah, it's quite big, yeah.
Well, how big is it? Because Rob's got 10 acres and a swimming pool. What have you got?
Oh, no, it's not as big as that.
Have you got a barbecue?
No, I can still sort one out for you.
Good lad. Right, we've got another option. We're going to Hull to do Talk North live. We're not going to North Korea. Christoph, good man. Thank you very much indeed. Hello to Bill. This says useless degrees. At your Liverpool Hope University, you can do a BA in business management with dance. How does that? Honestly, yeah, let us know the crappiest university degree there is out there. Sorry, can you imagine? Hi, I'm here to look at your business and I'm going to dance in front of you while we're doing it. That's just ridiculous.
I'd forgotten that there was a Liverpool Hope University. I know that there's Liverpool University and that there's Liverpool John Moores University, but I'd forgotten that there's a third one, in fact. So
what, the Hope University?
Yes. Listen, if you didn't get into John Moores or Liverpool,
Andy
there's always
Burnham
hope.
would love that. There'll be hope in your heart. Because, of course, you do know he's a Scouser, Burnham, don't you?
Well, he's from Aintree.
They're quite posh there. They get out the bath.
Yeah, some people would consider that not being a Scouser.
Jezza and the man in the tobacco suit. You've ruined this morning with that suit, honestly. We are not stupid. There is no Burnham bounce. Labour have finished for decades, and that's why all aspects of the media are relentlessly attacking reform. As the voice note system isn't apparently working, we'll use the phones. Let's go to Derbyshire. Joanna, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Well, I'm all right, but then I looked at Benedict Spence's suit and it's not the greatest colour. Say good morning to him because he's feeling a bit depressed.
Good morning.
Doesn't even know who you
Good
are.
morning.
Joe, what do you want to say, Jojo? What's happening?
I was doing a degree in forensic psychology with honours, but I couldn't afford to do the very last bit of the honours part of my degree.
Forensic what?
Forensic psychology with honours.
Jesus, like cracker. That's amazing. But that's a proper course, and yet you were not able to finish that course. I don't want to sound elitist, but are there too many universities, too many crappy courses? Do you think Burnham's right that actually it should be scaled down and kids at 16 should be able to go out and work and graft?
There are courses out there, but a lot of the courses that are offered in universities, they're not properly accredited.
Yeah. How are you...
All that non-accredited stuff needs to be binned.
Good idea. Where are you? You're in Derbyshire. Where about? In the Peak District?
I certainly am.
Good girl. Also, girl, obviously, I don't mean that badly. Somebody will say, you can't call her a good girl. Shut up. What do you make of Burnham after the first week?
Where do we start? Where do I start?
And also, the other thing that I need to ask everybody who comes on the show today, and I forgot with Chris, on the front page of The Sun today, a chaplain named Emma Roberts is claiming to be a dead ringer for Andy Burnham, and she's called herself Mandy Burnham on TikTok. So, Joanne, in the Peak District, who do you look like?
No comment.
Brilliant, fantastic. Thanks for your involvement. 6:31. Benedict, thank you, Joe. 0344 499 1000. Linda, hey up, Jezza. Are the government trying to shut down Angry Rob? That's what's happened. The government have shut down my voice note system. Angry Rob's not a rat. There's something very strange going on. It's a conspiracy. It's either they're all listening to Andrew Bloody Ridgeley, or they've looked on YouTube and seen your suit, or they just... It could be, I mean, it could be Russian involvement. It could be anything, couldn't it?
Could be those evil right-wing trolls online. That's always what the BBC blames everything on.
I reckon it's Kevin O'Sullivan. I've got a public service announcement to make, right? So yesterday, I went to the loo. And as I came out of the loo...
That's exciting for you.
No, but there's never any planning on this show because you can tell by listening it's utterly just devoid of any organisation. So I went to the loo, and as I came back, I passed Christian, who was going to the loo, and he said, I've got a great idea, let's do Talk North. Fantastic. Kev apparently came up with this on his show. So, I mean, I can publicly say this to you, Kev. I haven't listened to your show recently, and it wasn't my idea. But we're happy to make it a station thing, Talk North. Drive is fantastic with Kev. I think we should take the show up north, don't you?
I think it should.
Have you ever been north of Watford Gap? Where did you go? Norfolk.
Oh, I've been to Liverpool.
Oh, you are a Scouser? Are you a Scouser?
No, I'm not a Scouser. Listen to my voice. I'm not a Scouser.
Yeah, I'm not a Scouser. I just support them.
No, I've got relatives. I've got family up there. The once upon a time you have to go up and see and say, ha, I see you're all still here, right? And I've
are
been,
you out yet? When are you on? When are you out on parole?
And I've been through the rest of the north on my way to Scotland to go fishing and stalking and whatever else I might get up to.
Stalking?
Yes. You know,
stalking.
Following deer.
Yes, but you need to be very, very careful when you say that.
I know.
Oh, is this Angry Rob? Right, it's obvious that the voice note system is buggered right now because Angry Rob in Lincolnshire's on the line. Morning, Robbie.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Mr. Spence. May I say, sir, not only do you look, but your political commentary is salubrious, sir.
Rob, is there a problem with the voice note system this morning?
Yes, there is, and I've just told your bloke on the phone to sort it out. I've sent several through. They ain't getting through. You were concerned yesterday I'd gone elsewhere. No, I haven't. You can tell Poppy I ain't gone on holiday because there's too much to talk about with that bag of puss Burnham in charge.
Before we talk about that, the up north idea, the Talk North, should we come to Lincolnshire with the show? What do you reckon?
Well, I tell you what, Jez, it won't be this year, but next year when the bar in my yard is finished, it's a doozy. You boys, you and your crew are all invited to come up there and you can do whatever you want. And yes, so I've got a barbecue and I've got a beer fridge the size of a coffin, so you'll be well away.
Now, they've said to me, we love Angry Rob, we want him in your cabinet, Jez. Because it's a live rant, you can't swear. Go! What do you make of it all?
Right, let's for a start, let's talk about Zach Polanski and the Alphabet Gang, yeah? Got that T-shirt with Nigel Farage, the guillotine, saying we're only making plans for the idiot that's wearing it with his rainbow hat and all of that. That tells you everything you need to know. The Be Kind crowd ain't kind. They're a bag of worms, mate. They're absolutely horrible people. The only thing they like is the sound of their own voice in their own head. Right, on to them. This death tax thing, 10%. What a balloon. So if you've been a generational waster and you've never worked, your parents never worked, all you've ever done is claim benefits, live in a house that's paid for by the taxpayer, fantastic, you've got the winning lottery ticket. But poor old Mary and Freddie who live next door, who put 60 years in each and have worked hard and saved to give their kids and grandkids a little bit of a kickstart in life, guess what? They're going to take it away from you because they don't want you to have any money. They want to give it to the absolute bags of crap that don't want to work, do anything positive, or put something good back into a country that has looked after them and wiped their asses their entire life. Oh, I'm sick to death with people getting rewarded for doing nothing.
I genuinely don't want this to sound wrong. I completely love everything that you say every day because you are spot on. And when we come up north, you're going to be the star of the show, Angry Rob. Have a good day, me old son. Thank you so much indeed. I thought, Rob, before you go...
Burn off the excess energy.
I thought what we'd do is we'd get you to be the paper reviewer because the current one's crap. Thank you, Angry Rob. 0344 499. So there is a problem with the voice there. Can we get an engineer? There's no engineer working. It's 6:30 in the morning.
That's why. Because they've all gone to university. None of them have actually trained to become engineers. That's part of the problem. They all went to Kiel or Solent or wherever there else are apparently universities.
Look, I'm sweating. You see that now the heating's boiling. It's all going wrong this morning.
Again, a complete lack of people with any kind of technical ability at all because they all learnt David Beckham studies or whatever it was.
Can somebody bring me a fan so I can blow myself on air? I'm back in 3, thanks.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. So we've got to the bottom of it. Benedict Spence is here. The whole WhatsApp system's buggered, which means we've got no voice notes and not many text messages. But keep trying, because apparently an engineer, this is brilliant, is looking into it. Now, I don't know what that means. We've got great engineers here who have worked diligently to be successful in their careers. Are they working from home? What does it mean? Is it a wire or something? Do you have any idea about technical stuff?
Do you think that I have any idea about it?
I think, like my dad, you'd ring somebody to change a light bulb. You're that posh.
Yes, I have somebody for that.
Yes, absolutely. Morning, Jeremy and Benedict. Who's paying for number 10 up north? And as for hard hat youth, as soon as they get told the need for bricklaying, they need to go, they'll be off with anxiety. It'll be too much for them. I reckon Burnham is conning us all. Guy in Scotland, Jez, I used to have loads of tobacco suits. I was getting through about 10 a week, says Ian.
Quite good.
Is it really? If you are watching on YouTube, unless that's broken as well, because everything else is this morning, you actually went into a shop and said, I want a tobacco linen suit.
I went into a tailor and said, I'll have a tobacco linen suit.
You
Absolutely.
went into a tailor?
Yes. I'm going to see my tailor today, actually. Yeah, I know. She said that to me last time she saw me. She said, you put on weight.
Oh, have you? I thought you'd lost weight.
No, tailors are always very honest. They have to be very honest, otherwise
absolutely.
their work doesn't look very good.
No. 0344 499 1000. We seem to be working on the phones right now because the voice note system is buggered. Laura Jane's in Hampshire. Morning.
Good morning. I wondered how many points Benedict has stalked for. How many points of a stag, which is the most you've managed?
Oh, I've not got anything particularly good, but my old man got, I think, an 11-pointer a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry. I mean, I might be new money and not... Sorry. What the bloody hell are you two talking about?
I'll let her explain.
Yes, no, I think I better get on to more serious.
Well, I was going to say, it's the home of Alarm Clock Britain, not the upmarket like to shoot things at the weekend, is it?
11, so points is how many points there are on the stag's antlers.
Yeah.
So 11
So it's like the old
Bruce.
Bruce Forsyth going, points make prizes, yeah? Points make... all right, my love, points make prizes.
Yes, I suppose so. An 11-pointer is a good prize to bag.
Don't touch the pack, we be right back. Laura Jane, let's get serious. What's happening?
So this death tax.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is we are already going to pay inheritance tax when we go, which is up the threshold of anything over 326,000. So now we're going to be paying death tax on top of that?
Yeah.
This is outrageous.
I'll tell you why it is outrageous. Is the problem with the death tax is the Labour Party, I suspect, Benedict, would see that as, you know, making sure that the successful, the rich pay more. This is going to screw everybody. And Christian made the point earlier, which is absolutely fantastic. So you're being made in your death to pay yet more tax on money that you've saved that you've already paid tax on.
Yeah.
What's the point? What's the point then, Laura, of saving or living frugally or putting something aside? Why not just spend everything?
Well, that's exactly what I've told my 3 children. I've said I am not giving a penny to the government. So it's all going in whatever I fancy spending it on and Battersea Dogs Home. I have 4 dogs. So, and if, you know, there is absolutely no point.
I prefer a cruise to Battersea Dogs Home. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. I'd go on a cruise. I mean...
No, but I'm not giving it to the government. I really, really, really am. Against giving money to this type of government who want to, you know, and my children know that, and so they're just going to have to graft for themselves, as the Alarm Clock Britain says. I'm just not giving it away.
Good for you. Whereabouts in Hampshire, Laura Jane?
In Stockbridge.
Very nice. Who do you look like? Do you look like anybody famous? The front of the Sun today has Andy Burnham looks like a female chaplain called Emma Roberts, who's now taken out a TikTok to say that she should be called Emma or Mandy. I don't know.
Mandy Burnham.
Mandy. All right, OK. Who do you look like?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have discovered 2 more prime ministers in my family. There were 2, and now there are 4. It starts with Lord Melbourne, Palmerston, Lord Salisbury and Churchill. Those were all in my family, and I didn't know about Palmerston.
Let me tell you, Benedict, you poser. This is proper class, Laura Jane. She's got aristocracy running through her veins.
Yes. All I've got to show for it is Liverpool Football Club and the East African Railway Company.
Fantastic. Well done. Laura Jane, we love you. Thank you very much indeed. 0344 499 1000. What do you think about giving money to dogs?
Well, the country's going to the dogs. You might as well cut out the middleman.
I just keep thinking about my second divorce. 0344 499 1000. Sorry. 0344. Oh, God, I'm going to get a letter, aren't I? 03... I don't care. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. This is perhaps the story of the morning, team. By the way, just got to agree with Angry Rob. The bone-eyed will get it all. It's like a full-time job. Don't get a job through the system. That's what needs shaking up. People on benefits who don't deserve to be on benefits. I think we all agree with that, don't we?
A huge number of people are on benefits that they don't deserve. And yes, it's one of those things where under the last, well, I say last Conservative government, at the start of the coalition, I remember the benefits bill was significantly smaller than what it currently is, but even then people were saying it's a disgrace how large it's got. And they brought in Ian Duncan Smith and they said, well, you've got to sort of address this. And actually, they did one of the few things that you'd say that government
He did a great job.
Fantastic job of changing that. And then COVID came, and then lockdowns came, and then we decided we need to dope everybody with money because nobody can possibly go to work.
And you don't have to turn up for an interview. You can just fill out a form saying, I've got anxiety and be paid 6 months' money. Ludicrous.
The whole system. We'd managed to just about get it right again, and then we set fire to it all over again, and now you look at the size of the bill, it's so much larger than it was, it's only getting bigger, and all of the MPs, the backbench MPs, are terrified about addressing it, because now there are more people in many of their constituencies on these benefits than who actually vote Labour. So none of them want to touch it at all. It's a complete disaster how we've allowed.
So much to talk about. That photo, well, really... I mean, it was about Nigel Farage's execution shared by Zach Palance. The police are looking into that. Labour ahead of reform in a first poll in 12 months. What does that mean? In a bid to tackle youth unemployment, Burnham says you shouldn't go to university. You can get an apprenticeship and work your way up. I sort of agree with that. I don't agree with the fact that he apparently wants to impose a death tax of 10% on anybody and everybody that's ever saved anything. Also, universities, we've decided there are many that are useless and there are many courses that are useless. Holly says there's a degree in surf science at Cornwall. Cost nearly 10,000 a year.
To be fair, what else do you do in Cornwall? Like that's what everybody does, isn't it? They all go down to Cornwall in order to learn to surf. You need instructors there. I'm prepared to take that as sort of slightly odd thing.
30 grand over 3 years to learn. No, 30. Yeah, to learn a surf science degree.
Do you have any idea how many wealthy people from London go down there? I reckon you'd probably make your money back on that. That's the first nonsense degree that
I don't understand.
I thought there's perhaps a niche in that.
I don't want to sound old-fashioned and cynical, probably because my balance is out. But why would you want to stand on a bit of board in the middle of the sea to be knocked over?
I hear there's a lot of money to be made in coming one way. Maybe you go the other way.
Very good. If you are tuning in, seemingly the voice note system isn't working, but keep leaving them because we will get to you. Let's go to North Yorkshire. Alan, good morning.
Hello, mate. How you going? You sound like you're on something this morning.
Right. OK. Well, all right, let me do a passable impression of most people. Let's go to North Yorkshire. Alan, good morning. What do you want to talk about?
We don't all talk like that up here, though, Rose.
By gum, stick your... Sorry? What?
Jez, listen, I want to be serious now.
OK.
When are parents going to be blamed for the behaviour of their kids? When are parents going to be blamed for their yobbishness? Let me just tell you something. I'm 80 years old. When I was a kid... And my dad, God bless him, I loved him to death, and he was the kindest, most beautiful man in the world. But when he said to me, son, sit down, take your shoes off and behave, and you don't move until I tell you, he never once laid a finger on me in his entire life. I respected him because of the love he showed me and the way he taught me to live life. And that came the person I am today, and perhaps, and I say with all modesty, the persons my two sons are and my two grandchildren are, those generate from what my father, because the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree, does it?
I couldn't agree more. And, you know, whenever we have these discussions, and this is serious now, whenever we have discussions about, oh, you know, the school should do this or the government should do that, I've always said on this show, for as long as I've sat here, it starts at home. At the end of the day, the person that you become, the decency you show, the manners that you perform, the humility you display, that comes from how you're brought up. And whilst we can sit here and go, not seemingly, maybe in the old days we got more attention, maybe parents don't do as much. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Christ, we were taught to table manner, everything. She made us sit, my mum, with our arms behind our backs when we sat down for dinner, so we had straight backs. I mean, honestly, the world nowadays, you go, oh, no. I try and have a conversation with my 17-year-old who isn't listening, so I can say that. You start trying to get blood out of a stone half the time. It doesn't mean I don't keep trying, because he's my son, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. We had to roll our sleeves up before we were allowed to sit at the table.
Yep.
And we had to wash our hands before we... And listen, let me tell you, mate, when you talk about just after the war, when I was a nipper, just after the war...
The First World War or the Second World War?
The Second World War. And my dad served in the Second World War and in the Korean War. And I know everyone's sitting at home, they're going, yeah, your dad's an hero. Well, I don't know if he was a hero or not, but he served his country in 2 major wars.
And you looked up to him, and that's the point, isn't it? And that... And you know, we can sit here and say, oh, it's not kids' fault. But I think, I mean, I've said it for a long time, I get slaughtered. I think that parents, if they're going to have kids, should man up or woman up and take the responsibility for those children. I completely agree. Al, you're a legend, 80 years of age and still strongly at it. I feel exactly the same about my old man, but obviously he's dead. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. This is brilliant. I want to play, this is the front page of The Sun today. I'm Mandy Burnham. This is a female chaplain called Emma Roberts who thinks she looks like Andy Burnham, so she's opened a TikTok account, which means we're asking you, who the hell do you look like? Can we play the clip, please, of Mandy on TikTok?
So people are calling me Mandy Burnham, as you know, and it's really interesting to me because I am commenting on religious issues, spiritual issues and politics. So the fact that Andy Burnham is a Catholic, a non-practicing a Catholic, I think, is interesting to me. Is that going to change British politics? Is it going to change the way in which we see an honesty, I think, about how Christianity is the underpinning moral code that we live by.
Can't be often that you get a theological sort of lesson on TikTok, but that's Mandy Burnham. Who do you... Nobody said that you look like anybody.
I'm waiting for clever people to sort of text in and say who I look like.
Well, the text system's not working, so you can bugger off.
Yeah, the whole
Nobody's
thing doesn't work. When I was younger, people said I looked like the kid that played Neville Longbottom on Harry Potter, but I've seen what he grew into, and I don't look like him at all.
No.
He's rather a handsome man.
Morning, JK and Benedict. The left don't like the idea of passing on wealth to the next generation. They believe the wealth should go to the state and everyone should start at zero. The left just don't understand human nature. Can I say a very good morning to the legend that is Darren Lawton? He's currently listening to this show. He's just sent me a message. What's he put? He's put, Henry smoking a cigar at Nikki Beach. You were a great role model. Right, listen, I'd like to point out... Thanks, mate. Why did I read that out? We were in Barbados many years ago. It was a party. Thank you, Darren. And yes, it was about 7. Why have I just read that out? What a completely crap father I am. This is interesting, by the way. Universities, which Andy Burnham doesn't want to end, but he wants to say you can go to work as well. Here are some university degrees, Benedict. We'd like your response. Bath Spa University, you can do a contemporary circus and physical performance degree.
Set you up well for a career as a Labour politician.
Yeah, BA in clowning around. The Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, puppetry design and performance. Why am I doing that?
OK.
Albert University, where's that? Ethical hacking.
What?
You can do a degree in ethical hacking. Sorry, you're not going to be arrested. Just hack into that Russian system, will you? The Heriot Watts University, which... Heriot Watts, that's in Scotland, isn't it?
But these places have universities.
Wait, brewing and distilling you can do a BA in.
That's a brilliantly Scottish thing. Yeah. Okay, I'm on board with that.
Yeah,
we need more of that.
Expense BA in brewing and distilling. The London South Bank University, of course... I can't... Are you sure it's not banking? Baking Technology Management. A BA in fairy cakes. Honestly, this is genuinely what you can do. So I'm sort of with Burnham.
As I say, we've come across two today that I'm sort of sat there going, oh, I can see it. But
what,
the majority...
distillery, brewing and distillery.
Brewing and distilling and surfing if you're in Cornwall.
Yeah,
but apart from that, there's a lot of, as we know, a lot of courses that shouldn't exist. Frankly, a lot of universities that should not exist. No, I think you're right. I think he's right. I think that this is something that most people in the country also recognise. And this is also why I say he's just fundamentally better at politics than Starmer. He comes out and he says this. He hasn't necessarily come out with a scheme for how it is that he is going to get everybody back into these sort of industries straight off the bat, but everybody understands this is right. He's saying this. How am I going to get your kids jobs? How is that going to help the country rebuild itself? Rather than, I'm going to tax you, I'm going to release criminals, and it's going to take a long time. You can see straight off the bat how people go, I don't know how he's going to do it, but I
don't know
agree.
what you think, but I think he shouldn't underestimate the fact, because we're going to call out every single day that people now are politically invested because of how hard their lives are to go, do you know what? I want to know how that's going to be feasible. Whereas in the past, when the cost of living wasn't the primary concern, people just allowed this stuff to happen. But I think the British public are questioning far more, right?
Yeah, I think that the public's tolerance for all of this has gone, and that's a problem that has affected Starmer. It's going to affect Burnham. It's going to affect Reform, ultimately, as well. This is partly why I think Reform are suddenly not doing quite so well in the polls. I think a lot of traditional voting has disappeared, and with that goes the loyalty as well. And the flip side of that is it means that a new party like Reform can come up and potentially do very well, whereas once upon a time it would have had no hope. The flip side of that is if you don't keep up on the front foot, if you are entirely reactionary, not proactive, people will actually just leave you as quickly as they turned up. But that's going to affect Burnham as well. He's going to have a couple of weeks. We're going to see this little bounce. But then if there isn't meat on the bones, which I think we all are kind of sceptical about, simply because we've been around politics long enough, then that'll disappear as well.
Jez, Brett from Basingstoke here. I'm in the gym early pumping iron. Apparently my lookalike is Fred from First Dates. Is that Fred Siri?
That guy.
Yeah, that one. Also, very quickly, this is interesting. Great story. This is for you, Darren Lawton. A Palestinian protester who scaled Big Ben last year has avoided jail due to his poor eyesight. Daniel Day was given a suspended sentence after sitting on Elizabeth Tower for 17 hours. I bet he didn't ask her. And costing the taxpayer £92,000. The judge said that Day, who is unemployed, there's a surprise, has not offended since the Big Ben incident and had strong personal mitigation. He had failing eyesight. No truth in the rumour that he thought he was climbing a ladder. What has this country become? We talk about parental responsibility, 100 grand for sitting on bloody Big Ben, and he gets away with it because he can't see anything.
But also the nonsense of the whole Palestine thing. It's yet another example of somebody going about a conflict half a world away that actually has nothing to do with us, who decides, I'm going to inconvenience everybody else, I'm going to cost us lots of money, I'm going to draw away police resources because I think this is important. Do they know anything about the region? Do they speak Arabic or Hebrew? Have they ever been to the region? No. Do they plan on doing any of these things? No. Largely it's simply because they've decided that that is the omni-cause, and the rest of us have to just sort of sit here and go, the omni-cause.
What does that mean?
Well, it's the same sort of people who always care about Palestine, and they always care about, the environment.
The professional activists.
Yeah, they've got something every day that they are really angry about, and somehow it's all your fault.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's the left, isn't it?
It's basically.
It has been, it's been beyond a pleasure to have a man. I mean, this is no disrespect to Matt Vickers or Poppy or Charlie, but to have a man who turns up in a tailored linen tobacco suit and speaks so eruditely about a variety of things, because you're posh, aren't you? You get out the bath to have a wee, is that true?
Sir, what? Do I get out of the bathtub to wee? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I aim.
Commoner's muck.
I aim.
Forget commoner's... Pardon?
I aim from the bathtub.
I would love people to be tuning in this morning, but obviously they aren't. No, I'm joking. Can I just also, apart from say thank you to Benedict... Benedict?
Ben's a bit off this morning. He's not quite at it.
I will say this. Apparently the voice note system and the WhatsApp system isn't working brilliantly, so if you've sent a voice note, keep them coming. We've got an engineer who's currently somewhere up north. He's got a degree in WhatsApp. We've got him. He's got a degree in WhatsApp. He's looking into it. And his assistant who's got a degree in wiring. They're from Oxford, strange enough, Polly. They're looking into it. So we will get them to you, but keep your calls coming. We'll get you on live as well. 0344 499 1000. Text. Andy Burnham has 2 degrees, one in fashion and one in eyebrow maintenance. He needs one more to be the 3 degrees. Let's talk. in Chelmsford. This show is heading to oblivion with a smile on its face and a spring in its step. Where are you going off to now? Going home to watch Holly Willoughby's new
I hadn't thought about
show?
that, but yes, that might be it.
Courgette
I hear it's dreadful. That's going to make me feel a lot better about
You're probably
myself.
going shooting, aren't you, or something today?
It's not the season.
God, he's so posh. Honestly, he is posh. Is that an engineer? Are you an engineer? We've got an engineer who's walked into the building. Hopefully voice notes will happen next Tuesday. 0344 4. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Steve, for coming. We appreciate it enormously. 0344 41000. Your text messages to 87222. Benedict will be back here next week. We'll see you after the news at 7, which is next on Talk Breakfast.
My intention to run for a 4th term as President of the United States. I won 3 times, did very well the 2nd time, by the way. It's a rigged election, but we don't have to talk about it.
It's an entire community in their heads, and he knows how to push it and literally send them off. I thought he was actually more restrained last night than we've seen in just his regular speeches. I mean, he's got comedic timing. He is the funniest president we've ever had, and man, he was playing it on all fours last night.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is therefore my honour to declare that the duly elected leader of the Labour Party is Andy Burnham.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
This man has no mandate whatsoever. He didn't stand on the 2024 general election manifesto. You cannot make the biggest change in British politics in 40 years.
I think Burnham has to walk a fine line. I think that's probably what's going on, because if he were to sweep into Downing Street and say, I'm going to change everything, I'm going to fix everything, I'm going to do things completely differently to Starmer, then people would say, hold on, mate, we need a general election in that case, because no one voted for that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, welcome along, or welcome back. We're laughing because if you have tuned into the first hour, obviously this is about you, Alarm Clock Brits. It's about the news of the day and your views as ever on 0344 419 1000, text to 87222. But we have a technical problem this morning, which, you know, rather makes my plans to take Talk up north. We can't even run a bloody studio from here. It's not anybody's problems. There seems to be an issue with WhatsApp. So, voice notes can't happen. You need to text in the old traditional Where? 87222. Start your message with word talk. But what I'm going to do today, once this is cleared up, is have live voice notes. And my first participant is going to deliver a live voice note. Please don't swear. Malcolm, good morning, go.
Morning, Jason. How's it going?
No, it's a live voice note. I'm not responding to you. It's not humour. Go with your live voice note now.
Morning down here in the southwest. I'm up for the Crockles just before 6 o'clock. We got massive problems down here at the moment. The traitors that we call the Labour government are now trying to push Plymouth County Council to go wider. We've now lost all our localism, and now we're going to end up probably with a load of HMOs down here. I just wanted to talk about Labour getting more points than reform. Well, I reckon your reason for that is that they've been smoking ash. They can't count. But I have no idea. I still don't know anybody who's going to vote Labour. God knows.
Yeah, but you're in the south. You're not entitled to an opinion. You're all rich in the south, mate. You make a really salient point. These news stories. What?
We're in the southwest. Get it right.
All right. I spent my life in the southwest. You're next to the Hoe, aren't you, in Plymouth?
Well, I'm just in a village just up from Ivy Bridge, but I still haven't seen Burnham come down here in his private jet.
No, he won't come down there, mate. Can't come down there because my parents lived down there. You know they did. I love it in the southwest. You're very right. It's all about Manchester and London. We could go east. We could go west. Maybe we'll bring. I mean, we can't even work out the phone system, but maybe we'll bring Talk Southwest. Could we come to your house? Do you think and do the show from your house?
Well, where I live, just outside, there's an old mill, council mill, so yeah, crack on.
Good man, lovely to speak to you. You driving your lorry or what?
No, I'm in the van going down to Bristol this morning and I'm 3 days away.
One question for you, who do you look like?
Well, apparently I've been told I look like Groove from, the Minions.
I love... Oh, God, I love you lot. Thank you very much, Steve. Malcolm in Devon. If you are tuning in to the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show on the home of common sense, there's not much common sense this morning because the WhatsApp system's down. So text me, 87222, or do a live voice note on 0344 499 or make a call. What are you waking up to? Well, Reform have reported Zach Polanski to the Metropolitan Police for sharing a photo of a T-shirt about Nigel Farage's execution. There's a guillotine and the message, "We're making plans for Nigel." My question is, should he resign, Zach, Dave Polanski? Is this the end for the Greens? And can you imagine the uproar if the right had done something like this? Outrageous. A new poll out today puts Labour 4 points ahead of Reform. First time in 12 months. We'll have Robert Jenner responding to that. PM Andy Burnham out and about as ever. This morning there are fears that he'll try to impose a 10% death tax on anybody and everybody, length and breadth of this country. If you've paid tax and saved and worked, you're going to be screwed again. Your thoughts on that? And also in a bid to tackle youth unemployment, he's decided, which I sort of agree with, that there's sort of too many universities, too many degrees and too many people ending up in debt. Let's get kids to work at 16, climbing the greasy pole. We'd love your suggestions on crappiest university courses. I'll give you a couple. You can go to Heriot-Watt University in Scotland and do a degree in brewing and distilling. But most of all, my favourite this morning is Abertay University. Didn't know there was one. You can get a degree in ethical hacking. So at least if you do get in prison for hacking, you can tell the judge it was an ethical way. Let's say a very good morning to a man who will give us his usual brilliance, the chief political writer for Spiked. Good morning, Brendan O'Neill.
Hi, Jeremy. How's it going?
Well, it's just bizarre because technically, I mean, I aimed yesterday to take Talk up north, which has all gone wrong because we can't even work the WhatsApp system this morning. But lovely to have you on, my friend. Where do we start? There is a very serious story today. This Zach Polanski shared picture, an image of an unknown man that he shared with his 713,000 Instagram fans, Brendan. The man's T-shirt showed a guillotine. I'm not showing it ever, with the slogan, "We're only making plans for Nigel." The Green Party have said he doesn't support this dangerous message and has taken it down. Can you imagine the uproar if the right did this, pal?
That is the most striking thing about this story, that if it had been someone on the right who had shared an image like that, say with a guillotine next to a picture of Zach Polanski, there would be outcry. Social media would be awash with condemnation. It would be on the front page of the liberal press. Nigel Farage or whoever would be called, a violent-minded lunatic. We know what would happen. We can envision it with our own eyes because that always happens. The right is always treated with a double standard in these kinds of discussions. But because it's Zach Polanski and because the target of that post he apparently shared is just Nigel Farage, just reform, apparently it doesn't matter. And the left is saying, get over it, move on. This would have been a really horrible thing to post at any time, but to do it 2 weeks after the murder of Anne Widdecombe, Nigel Farage's friend and colleague and comrade in the Reform Party, that is atrocious. And I think Zach Polanski has an explanation to make.
I mean, I'm completely with you. We sat through the horror of Anne Widdecombe, somebody that we all held very close to our hearts here at Talk, and actually that day that she was tragically murdered, she was on Talk that morning with Mark Dolan. Terrible. And you're right. And I the cesspit that is social media will never cease to amaze me. I don't get involved. I never have done with X. I post pictures of my kids and family, that's it. I don't get involved. But for that man who's on screen right now, who purports... But he said... The thing about to me about Polanski, which is also good for anybody with the brain cell, is the more he is scrutinised, interviewed, talked to, you realise that the Green Party is a facade for him. They're pro-Gaza, they're pro-every single illegal immigrant, they're pro-everything that sane-minded people go, are you joking? And yet that lady there, Hannah Spencer, she won it, Gorton and Denton, absolutely correctly and democratically. I think at that point, the left were swerving Labour and Starmer, and I think they've probably fallen back behind Burnham. And I think he's being seen, and they are as an organisation, for exactly what they are, which is a bunch of misfits who grab onto anything that they feel will give them a bounce. That's how I see it.
Absolutely right. I mean, what a bunch of misfits they are. We've got the leader who used to say that he could expand a woman's breasts through the power of hypnosis, who, as you say, jumps on every single bandwagon that passes by. He's got some, pretty radicalized Muslims in the party too, some of whom said the most grotesque things after the 7th of October pogrom by Hamas. And then the rest of them seem to me just to be these kind of ditzy middle-class people with pink hair and purple hair. I mean, the worst party you can imagine, the most unholy alliance of idiots and, sinister people.
And Brendan, absolutely no mention, and I think this is really relevant. I know we joke about it. I have not heard a Green candidate mention anything about green environmental issues. Not a tree, not a bush, not a piece of land, nothing. Gaza, yes. Immigration, yes. Legalise heroin, Jesus, yes. Close all banks, bring in a death tax of 100%. Awful. And I hope... I think it's disgusting, and you're absolutely right to bring in the late, amazing Anne Widdecombe to this. I hope he's prosecuted. He probably won't be, but I hope this just further enhances what people think if they look a little bit closer, as a man who ended up with 18% in opinion polls, down to 8 now, and he will disappear off the map.
You and I discussed this quite recently, but the real problem here is the way in which sections of the left look at the right. They don't just look at them as people they disagree with and people they want to challenge in an election and have debates with. They look at them as subhuman. They look at them as scum. They literally call them scum, Tory scum, reform scum. They see them as a kind of an inferior species, people who deserve hate, who are borderline fascists, who are really awful people. And that is creating a culture of intolerance and in some cases a culture of violence. I think we have to wait for all the facts, but it's possible that's what we saw in relation to Anne Widdecombe, but certainly that's what we see when the left posts things every single day. And I think Zach Polanski's stupid post about that guillotine and Nigel Farage is part and parcel of a really horrible hatred that the left has for the right.
Couldn't agree more. Let's talk about polls. I'm just watching it up on one of the screens, I think on Sky News. Yesterday, a More in Common poll found that 28% of the people asked would have voted for Labour, 24% Reform, 22% the Tories. First time in 12 months that Labour have led. Now, you're a an experienced political writer and analyst. Is this A, the Burnham bounce? Has the reform bubble burst? What's wrong with reform? Where do you stand on this whole poll yesterday, my friend?
I think it's definitely a Burnham bounce, and a lot of us saw that coming. We knew there would very likely be some kind of bounce because Burnham, unlike Keir Starmer, you know, he's able to string a sentence together. He can talk about the Smiths. He likes a pint of beer. I mean, on that level, at least, he was going to connect with people more than Keir Starmer did. So there's going to be a bounce, and it seems that that's what's happening. At the same time, I think probably Reform are making a few missteps at the moment. I don't think they are as sharp as they could be.
They're not on the front foot, are they, Brendan?
They're not on the front foot. They're not pushing the agenda, and I think they could be. Zia Yusuf is doing a good job of trying to steer the public discussion in an interesting way, but I think the party needs to do more of that. And then at the same time, Kemi Badenoch is, I think, I have to say, playing a blinder at the moment.
I agree, and I get people say to me, oh hold on, I can disassociate Kemi Badenoch from a brand that I still think is toxic in the minds of millions of people. 14 years, the failures, the mistakes, it takes longer than 2 years for you to forgive that, or the public to forgive that. She is certainly somebody who seems to have her finger on the pulse. You look at Nigel, who I'm a massive fan of, but obviously since those accusations and the inquiry, and he's standing again in Clacton, a by-election he's called himself, that's sort of taken the focus away. I agree with you about Reform being on the front foot, because I think they have an enormous amount of sense to speak, and I think it'll be interesting to see. Look, my view of this station, you'd say the same with Spiked. I want my country to work, and if the man currently jogging there in ill-fitting orange trainers, Andy Burnham, if he's the answer, then so be it. But I need to know that for all those people who go, oh, Andy, great, thanks for the bus cut and the VAT, that this station, because not much of the mainstream media do it, will hold to task a man who can't promise bloody everything unless in the end he raises taxes. Of course, today there are fears he's going to impose a death tax, which would mean 10% on everything that anybody has ever saved and is giving to the next generation. That's appalling, isn't it?
Really appalling. And I think this is why it's going to be a bounce, because despite what you and I are saying about Reform being slightly on the back foot and Kemi really proving herself to be a good leader, despite that, and, you know, Burnham getting this bounce, I don't think politics is going back to the old ways. I don't think we are seeing the return of two-party politics,
no, I agree.
Which is what a lot of the media say. I think they're really rushing to conclusions on that just because things are going up and down in an unpredictable way. I still think we are seeing a populist surge. I still think ordinary people want to radically change politics to make it much more commonsensical. And it's those kinds of people who will hate something like a death tax, who will hate the fact that they're going to be taxed every minute of their life, including when they cork it on the deathbed. They're going to hate that. They're really going to bristle at that, because it used to be a tax that only applied to certain kinds of properties that were in the hundreds of millions. Now it will apply to everyone. It will just be a tax for dying on your loved one.
If you said to the British public, I'm going to improve the social care system, I'm going to improve the NHS, and I'm going to pay for it by asking every single person to pay 10% death duty, what would the response be?
I think the response would be that people would say, listen, the social care system definitely needs to be improved. And there are so many things we can do to improve it. And lots of elderly people or people with dementia find themselves in horrible situations. They live in conditions that are not good. The care is often not good. It's sometimes substandard. I think we need to train up a lot more young British people to be doing these jobs and to do them well and to be well paid for doing it as well. So there are a lot of things we can do to shake that system up.
But see, for me, straight away, front page of the Mail, Burnham's £18 billion death tax nightmare, right? That's what he thinks it would take, nigh on 20 billion quid, to sort the social care system. I'm not in government, I'm not an MP, I'm just a bloke who does this. I could find you 11 billion in 5 seconds if this country had the balls to say, I'm really sorry across the world, but foreign aid for the next couple of years isn't happening because this country needs to prioritise the people in this country. It's no good anymore saying, well, it's worse in Eritrea or Lesotho. It might well be. But right now, there are people, as you quite rightly say, who are not getting medical help, they're not getting an education, they're not getting help buying or renting their properties, and I think we should prioritise. And the other thing that, you know, we can go on and on about this. Yesterday he said, you know, he wants to do something about it. I hope that the welfare benefits bill, unless somebody in Labour, and maybe he's the man, let's be honest, if he uses his political capital to stand up and do something that I think this country is crying out for, which is this. Listen, here's the facts. We need to get past the argument that if we try and approach a change to the welfare system, everybody jumps up and goes, oh, what about... No, I'm not talking about the needy. I'm not talking about the genuinely disabled or mentally ill. In fact, I'm more than happy to pay lots of tax for that. And they need to understand in their argument that these people are missing out because people are gaming the bloody system, whether it's illegal migrants or dossers and the fectors. And being completely honest, that's what any government should attack, because that is billions and billions of pounds. But they won't, because they've got this belief, oh, people will get upset. I would stand in front of the British people and I would say, do you know what? Of the 8 million that are claiming whatever, I reckon there's 2 million taking the absolute whatsits out of all of us. And I am going to make sure that that money is redistributed to people who need it in this country. It's not rocket science. And I cut that, well, there's 30 or 40 billion straight away.
Absolutely agree. If you want to raise billions for social care, which I think we should do, you want to suspend foreign aid for this period at least. You want to slash the welfare bill, stop giving handouts to kids with ADHD who are perfectly capable of getting a job if they wanted to.
Absolutely.
Stop funding the lifestyle of hundreds of thousands of migrants who should not be in this country. There is so much we could cut. But, you know, just for me, the proof that Burnham is not going to be the solution to our problems was when he released that video of him and John Healey last week in a pub eating pork scratchings and bacon fries. That was the week in which hundreds of young men arrived on the shores of England, more than had arrived.
Haven't heard anything about stopping the boats, have we, from Burnham?
Nothing about that. He's got nothing to say about the issues of national sovereignty, national security, the concerns of working class people, that so many people are pouring into this country and taking the mick. He's got nothing to say about that, but he goes to a pub, he eats a pack of pork scratchings and he says, look at me, I'm a normal bloke. He's out of touch. He's not in touch with what working class people are thinking about, and that's going to become really clear in the next few weeks and months.
Couldn't agree more, mate. I always agree with you, because you're right. Final story this morning. In his bid to tackle youth unemployment, Andy Burnham will today argue that Sir Tony Blair's drive to get half of school leavers to attend universities let down a generation of young people seeking technical qualifications. Now, in a shocking sideswipe, I agree, and I'm going to sound elitist. I think there's too many universities offering crap courses to students who are seduced by the belief that that's a byword to a job. They end up hugely in debt. I get very frustrated. My kid's 16, right? He's got to go and do it. No, do you know what? My Henry would have been quite happy going to work and climbing the greasy pole, something to do with golf, right? He's working as a greenkeeper. Fantastic. It's probably not cut out for going to a college. I am absolutely behind apprenticeships, experience, all that sort of stuff. People go, oh, they wouldn't want them. We need to galvanise this generation to work bloody hard. That's what I would say, rather. And I sound hypocritical because I've got a degree, and yes, I completely agree, all of those things. But I think we've got to a point where, I mean, some of this stuff this morning, contemporary circus and physical performance, a BA from Bath Spa University, puppetry design and performance from the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. Are you kidding me? For a 50 grand debt, and what? You're not going to get a job.
It's absolutely nuts. Some of the degrees, I heard that recently that there's a degree in curry making somewhere, how to make a curry. But it's completely and utterly bizarre. Wow. I agree with you. A lot of kids going to university should not be going to university, not because they're thick. It's not that at all. It's because their aptitude is for something else.
Yes.
And, you know, Burnham said that he wants to focus on hard hats, not just graduate caps. That's a good idea. I come from a hard hat family. I come from a family of builders. My father was a builder. Most of my brothers are builders. These are honest professions which
completely agree, pal.
Keep the country chugging along. But as you say, we need a complete cultural turnaround if we're going to do this. We need the young to buck up their ideas. We need to stop teaching them that they're victims. We need to make them strong and confident and convince them that it's a good thing to build for your country, to work for your country, and to work hard. We don't have that culture at the moment. So he's got a lot on his hands if he thinks he can do this.
Couldn't agree more. And also the light-hearted story today, you know, I do it. A chaplain named Emma Roberts, front page of the Sun, I don't know if you've seen this, is claiming to be a dead ringer for Andy Burnham, so much so she's calling herself Mandy Burnham on TikTok. Who have you been told, Brendan O'Neill, that you look like in your life?
At school, I used to be told I looked like Dan Aykroyd.
Sorry, somebody spoke. You look like what?
Dan Aykroyd. When I was at school, Dan Aykroyd used to be a very famous comedian.
Oh, my God, Ghostbusters without the beard. Absolutely. Yeah. Who do you want to call? Brendan O'Neill. You're a legend, me old son. Thank you. We love you. Go online to Spiked. It's the best. And he is such a brilliant writer. Chief political writer of Spiked Online. Brendan O'Neill, 7:23. I'll tell you one thing. You might agree with my next man's politics. You might not. But he is one of the most hard-working. Puts himself out there. Reform Shadow Chancellor, we say a very good morning live in Westminster. Robert Jenrick, good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are you?
Well, I'm all right, but I'm having one of those days. We've got technical problems. Yesterday, I decided to announce that we were going to take Talk North. We were going to do Talk North. We had some incredible suggestions from people, but seeing as how the WhatsApp system's not working, I don't think we're going to have the technical ability to do that. Let's start, my friend, with the main news story of the day, which is, by anybody's standards, disgusting. Reform, your party have reported Zach Polansky to the police for sharing that photo of that T-shirt. I won't show it ever. Nigel Farage's execution, a man with a guillotine and the slogan, "We're only making plans for Nigel," reposted by Dave Polansky to his 713,000 followers. Green Party said it's been taken down. He doesn't support this. Police are investigating. I would only say this to you, Rob. Can you imagine if somebody on the right had done something like this to somebody on the left of politics, my friend?
Yeah, can you imagine the outcry if it was Nigel Farage or myself who had done this to Andy Burnham or Zach Polansky? 100% this would be the biggest story, and people would rightly be absolutely furious at us for doing it. It is absolutely disgusting that Zach Polansky did this, because the context, remember, is we're just a few weeks past the brutal murder of our colleague Anne Widdecombe. We have hundreds and hundreds of death threats, many of them credible, against Nigel. There's a man in prison for threatening to kill him who came across on a small boat with the express purpose of murdering Nigel Farage. The police said they arrested somebody the other day for threatening to kill him. It cannot be right that you've got the leader of a political party sharing this kind of appalling content on social media. So yes, I fully support Reform calling the police, and let's see what the police do about this. But there must be a change so that this doesn't happen. You don't have Zach Polansky just posting this.
I mean, in any normal world, a leader would come under intense pressure to resign, but the Green Party, I mean, for me, I think it's an important... I mean, I have no respect for... I haven't heard anything about environmental issues. They're a bunch of ragbag misfits who grab hold of any latest possibly, usually Gaza or illegal immigration to garner votes. I think in the last few weeks, though, I think that the wheels have started to come off, and I think you'll see not just the poll we'll talk about in a minute, but polls in the past. He's gone down to 8%. I think people have probably rode in on the left behind Burnham for now, and they've seen Zach Polansky for what he is. I think the Greens are a busted flush, and thank Christ, because I think they are frightening, if you want me to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But there's such hypocrisy on this. Imagine if it was somebody on the right who'd done this. I mean, I draw a different example. Look what Kate Osborne, the Labour MP, did a few days ago. She posted drawing a link between the appalling, what seemed like Islamist terrorist attack in Germany and Reform and GB News, as if we are somehow responsible for this, or for creating a culture that might lead to this happening in the UK, when actually Reform is the one political party that stood up against Islamist extremism and terrorism consistently in this country. And as far as I'm aware, she hasn't apologised. Andy Burnham hasn't asked her to apologise. He hasn't chastised her about this. There's such appalling hypocrisy in the things that people on the left say, inciting violence, you know, making terrible, distasteful comparisons like that. And there's no outcry from most of the media about it.
Let me just nail this and then we'll move on. Are you, as an individual or a party, calling for Zach Polansky to resign?
it's not for me to say who leads the Green Party, but we have reported it to the police. That's more important to us, and it's now for the police to investigate this and decide whether it meets the threshold for inciting violence. And I'm pleased that they do seem to be investigating it.
But do you think, Rob, do you think he should resign, you personally?
Well, I don't know who would take over from him in the Green Party. I mean, it's an appalling ragtag bunch of misfits, isn't it? So, look, I'm not going to, get involved in who leads the Green Party.
Fair enough.
But do I think Zach Polanski is somebody, he's a thoroughly bad person? Yeah, absolutely. Of course I do.
I want to talk about death tax, but my job, is my job, and I have to do it as straight as I can. A new opinion poll this morning, the More in Common poll, puts Labour ahead of Reform for the first time in 12 months. I think Reform had led in 352 opinion polls. This poll found that 28% would vote for Labour if a general election were held tomorrow, 4 points higher than Reform. Is this the Burnham bounce, or are Reform... And we know what's been going on. A Reform because they've been on the back foot and less proactive, not from a personal point of view, but I think that's an observation. Is this temporary, or has the bubble of Reform burst, Robert Jenrick?
Well, there was always going to be some kind of bounce when Andy Burnham took over, because people are relieved that we got rid of Keir Starmer. Reform campaigned on... Vote Reform, get Starmer out. We won, we succeeded. It was only because of Reform that we got rid of him and Rachel Reeves, and people are mightily relieved that that's happened. So inevitably there's going to be some kind of boost for Andy Burnham. We'll see how long that lasts. My view is that Andy Burnham does not have the answers to the big challenges that are facing the country right now. He's bringing forward a strange combination of very small theatrical cosmetic things like 45 quid off your electricity bill, which is, less than the price of a second-class stamp, or moving some civil servants to Manchester to hold some meetings there. Or a few things which I think will be deeply and rightly unpopular with the public, like this death tax that he has said in the past he wants to impose upon hundreds of thousands of savers across the country who'd built up their nest eggs. He's not tackling the big issues. How do we get the economy going again so we get good jobs? How do we bring down energy prices for the long term by getting rid of net zero? How do we secure our borders, something that he doesn't seem to be willing to even talk about? His ideas are small by comparison to the big challenges facing the country, and Reform's role is to put forward the big answers to those challenges, the radical changes that the country actually needs, and that will be the debate in the months or the years ahead. Do you want Nigel as Prime Minister, or do you want Andy Burnham? Do you want radical change, or do you want to muddle along as we have in the past, but with a more human face than Keir Starmer?
And I think that's the point, and I said this yesterday. I mean, let me read this from Amanda. Don't take any notice of the recent polls, team. There are many people actually afraid of saying right now that they would vote Reform UK, which I think is salient. I tell you what I see this station primarily. I worry that those window dressing announcements by Burnham, right, which, let's be perfectly honest, millions of people in this country aren't invested in politics like you and I and people in broadcasting and politicians. They go, oh, my God, bus fare 2 quid, money off the VAT, off electricity. Oh, my God, this guy's great. I think our job, 1,000,000%, irrespective of the criticism I now get from the left for apparently being negative about it, is to absolutely tell the people of Britain, you are not going to be given any of this stuff for free. Ultimately, however it's dressed up, whether it's a death tax, an inheritance tax, whatever it is, the truth is, right, you will end up paying for it, and we need to... He has no scrutiny. He's got 6 weeks. He's not in Parliament. He's able to announce all this stuff. I think it is essential that we hold him to account. 1,000,000%, don't you?
Absolutely, and he seems to be very shy about doing proper interviews and having accountability. Look, at Reform, we've calculated all the taxes that he's proposed or advocated for in the past, and they amount to £66 billion. That would be £3.5 grand for every family in this country. He ruled out one yesterday, which was scrapping council tax and creating a new land tax. Why won't he do that for all the others? Well, I think the public will judge. That's because he may well take forward many of those tax rises in the autumn. And the one that is most concerning to me is this universal death tax. The idea that instead of just a small number of families having to pay inheritance tax when their loved ones pass away, everybody would do. 600,000 families a year would have to pay it. 10% on your loved one's estate. That seems fundamentally unfair to me, that people who'd worked hard, saved, done the right thing, would have their life savings raided to pay for Andy Burnham's pet project, rather than cutting out the waste that there evidently is in our country right now, the foreign aid going to rich countries, the illegal migration, the net zero subsidies, you know, you name it, the things that Andy Burnham should actually be focusing on right now.
Couldn't agree more. I've actually got a question straight away from Michael and Henry, and we'll let you know. He says, morning, Jez. Could you please ask Robert what reform plans are for inheritance tax? Boris said he would scrap it but never did. It's true to say that the IHT has not kept up with house price inflation, and I find this so unfair. What would reform do? Good question.
Yeah, well, look, in the past, we've said that we'd like to scrap it. Of course we would. We're going to have to make a judgment nearer to the general election whether the public finances will allow that. But I can tell you here and now that we will not be imposing this universal death tax. We're going to fight that tooth and nail, because that, you know, that if you think inheritance tax is bad, that, remember, only applies to 30,000 families every year, 3 or 4% of those people who pass away. What Andy Burnham has proposed in the past is absolutely every family in the country would have to pay 10% in death tax, and that is totally unfair. We're going to fight that, you know, if there's a reform government, we'll overturn it.
Good man. Listen, great to have you on, working hard. On a light-hearted note, because you like a laugh, and so do I, front page of The Sun today, an army chaplain named Emma Roberts is claiming to be a dead ringer for Andy Burnham, so much so that she's changed her name to Mandy Burnham on TikTok. She's a vicar. Have you ever been told you look like somebody else, Robert Jenrick?
I don't think so.
Right.
I didn't think that Mandy Burnham actually looked like Andy Burnham, to be honest, but...
Maybe Andy Burnham looks like Mandy Burnham, I've no idea. Robert, thank you so much indeed for your time as ever. We really appreciate Reform's view there from Robert Jenrick, Reform UK's Shadow Chancellor. Very interesting. 7:35, just to make the point. Technically, for some reason, we can't do voice notes or WhatsApp messages, so text me, all traditional way, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We'll get your calls on. We'll do live voice notes today, 0344 419 1000. Back in 3. At one point, you had 15, 20 million people watching your show.
Yeah, 20 million people on it. And I mean, Bob, David Bell, who's now passed away, bless him, he came into the dressing room one day and he said, right, boys, he said, do you know how many viewers you're getting? And we said, no. He said, you're getting 20 million viewers on a Saturday night. He said, it's absolutely fantastic.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 22 minutes to 8 in a minute. Kieran Mullen MP, Shadow Justice Minister. The Tories will be on. Carl Turner, the Independent who's hoping for the whip back from Labour, will be on at 8 o'clock, trying to get as much diversity, I hate that word, as we can. If you are tuning in, thank you. Because when you do, it gives me so much more time to work out what's coming next. Technical difficulties mean we can't do WhatsApp stuff this morning, but you can text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. I love this from Dan in Leek in Staffordshire. Jez, great show. Zach Polanski has posted something offensive calling for the death of Nigel Farage, but it's OK as he's now taken it down. Didn't Lucy Connolly post something not about death and took it down but still got 3 years in jail? I would never condone what Lucy Connolly wrote, but I have to say the imbalance is frightening. Margaret says Zach Polanski knew exactly what he was doing. Now he's backtracking. What a load of BS the Green Party are all about. 0344 499 1000. Text to 8. Oh, God. Nicola in Norfolk's not happy. Did you see Burnham trying to out Zelensky yesterday? The T-shirt and the ill-fitting jacket looked horrendous and very unstatesmanlike. He should take some sartorial advice from Benedict, who turned up in a tobacco linen suit this morning. I actually, again, I'm not getting old and soft, but I don't care what he wears. I want him to do right by people and be honest. That's what I want him to do. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to Southampton. Tony, you're on Talk Breakfast. Good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. For balance, right, father-in-law built a canoe business up and he had his house, etc. But he had to pay £200,000 in care home bills.
Yeah.
And there was left £23,000 when he died.
Yeah.
Right. And then on the balance of this, I mean, as a couple, I think we're worth about £600,000. We'd have to pay £60,000. It is this manageable, knowable number, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got personal experience of this, and I completely know what you're saying. You have to sell their house, and they have to, if they want to go into private care, which my old man did, they have to use everything that they've saved till they get to an amount, 23 grand, and then the state will pay for them. I don't know, it's such a difficult one. You want your best.
But it would spread it evenly across the society.
Yeah. I mean, there's your point. There is absolutely your point. I completely agree. And if you're going to have balance... I mean, look, I get, actually, Burnham, when he says his dad had dementia. Both of my parents died of dementia. I get it. It's horrible. I was lucky enough to be able to be there for my parents and do right by them, but there's a lot of people that can't. I'm not against changing our social care system. In fact, I'm very much for it. But what I will not accept is that you can stealthily bring in some sort of death tax and under the guise of, you know, it's all those millionaires, all those people that have made money. No, you are going to be absolutely attacking Middle Britain, people who dared to put money into a pension or save a few grand for their retirement, and people who've frugally lived to be able to pass the value of their house down. And I think it's wrong. I mean, I've said it, and I said it long before Robert Jenrick just said it. I'd cancel foreign aid and attack the welfare benefits bill and say to the feckless and the lazy, we're not paying you anymore. Get off your backsides and go and get a job.
The other thing is missing is the detail, because if Mrs A passes away, do you say, well, she's worth half of £500,000? Well, she'll have to pay £25,000 now, and the husband will have to find £25,000 to keep his house.
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more. Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate you being on. Graham's in Scunthorpe. He says, did you know that you can take an MA course in stand-up comedy at the University of Kent? Listening to your show every day, I'm thinking maybe you could consider it. So I'm not funny. Great. Only to look at. So Burnham thinks we have too many degrees. This from someone, yeah, this is true. It's a bit like me. Not that I went to Cambridge, obviously. I went to the 75th worst university, and there's only 75. Cambridge University took an English degree. Typical Labour, pull up the ladder. Same with grammar schools. Many had the good fortune to attend and sent children to the schools, then want to destroy them. I happen to agree with Burnham, but it is the hypocrisy, says Jackie, that gets me. Hello to Woody in Melton Mowbray. What a great place. Morning, Jez. Great show. About getting the youth into employment. They should bring back something similar to the YTS schemes. The youth, yeah, absolutely. I was on on the YTS scheme in the late 80s, and it gave me 24 fantastic years serving in the Royal Air Force. Brilliant, loving every minute of it. I wouldn't have got it without the helping hand of YTS. There are so many great kids out there without qualifications with great potential. I completely agree with that. And this whole view of everybody should go to uni or college, I think is misplaced, and I don't agree. I mean, when Blair brought it in, I said earlier on the show, my 16-year-old would be much better going to work. He's at golf college, OK, but he wants to work and he wants to earn money, he wants to be successful, and that, I don't think we should take that away from kids. 0344 499 1000. Jez, why would anybody in a poll admit to voting for reform when they might be threatened or with what's happened? I think that's a really salient point. When I hear the establishment going on about, oh, the right wing, the far right, I've said this before about reform. I did an interview during the last election with a Reform candidate and a Tory candidate, and the Reform candidate was talking about secure borders, more policemen and women on the streets. You know, lo and behold, let's do something about crime, low taxation, you know, attacking and ending net zero and the welfare state. The Tory, I'll never forget this, the Tory candidate went, well, that's far right. And I went, you just lost my vote. That's ridiculous. The people who label reform and parties like that as far right are missing out. The things they're talking about are exactly what Conservatives talked about for years and years. Lucy got 32 months for a similar post after Southport. You're absolutely right. This is a reaction to Zach Polanski liking a post of a man wearing a T-shirt saying we're making plans for Nigel with a guillotine. Police are looking into this. Can you imagine, as I've said all morning, if the right dared to do something like that? Jez, I got told I look like an illegal immigrant. It's great. I'm currently living in a 4-star hotel. I get 3 meals a day and free yoga, art and golf and cooking classes, says Dave in Worthing. So that's working for him. Sean in Gloucester. Morning, JK. The Uni Party and especially Labour always try and tax us more. How about spending our money with a bit more thought and care? You wouldn't need as much, you morons. Good point. Can we have a Burnham checker? What's a Burnham checker? Now 8th day as PM and absolutely nothing about all these economic migrants crossing the channel. Why is he burying his head in the sand? Angry Mags. A Burnham checker. Should we have a TikTok? What we should do, Christian, is create something on screen. We'll have it 8. How many days is it going to be until Andy Burnham mentions illegal migrants and stopping the boats? Can we do... We can't do that, technically, because we can't even answer a WhatsApp. I mean, honestly, the thoughts of taking this show north, we can't even make it work in its own studio. It's all gone south. Very good. 0344 499 1000. Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Wales. Alan, good morning. Christian's dad's on line 1. Morning, Christian's dad.
Good morning, Jeremy. It's Alan here.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good. Love the show. Up every morning, 4 or 5, trying to earn a crust. I can't believe this Burnham death tax. It just, you know, if you work all your life to buy your house, if either you or your partner needs care, they put a charge on your house, and when you die, they sell the house and take the money back. And now they want to take 10% extra of what's left.
Listen, mate, the reality of a death tax is that we'll be paying more tax on money we've already paid tax on. That is not in any way an inspirational message to anybody. It says to anybody, don't work hard, don't save, just rely on the state. I can't have it. I think it's fundamentally flawed, don't you?
Totally wrong. Totally wrong. Agree with you 100%.
And what do you think of the Zach Polanski liking the picture of the T-shirt depicting the execution of Nigel Farage? What did you make of that this morning?
I couldn't comment on that live on the radio, I'm sorry.
This was a live voice note. You're very, very good. 0344 499 1000. Michael in Henley. Thank you, Jeremy, for asking Robert about IHT. Now we know nothing. Saddens me as a Reform member who worked hard and achieved things. Very interesting comment. Morning, Jez. 2 things. I'm sure there was once a university degree around the life and times of Taylor Swift, although she's only 12. You can do a degree in Taylor Swift. And is Angry Rob ever not angry? What warms his cockles and makes him happy? Matthew from Swansea. YouTube is fine. It's great, isn't it? YouTube's usually rubbish, but YouTube's fine, and the WhatsApp system's gone up the Swanee. We don't care. Kieran Mullen, not happening. 0344 499 1000. We're trying to get connection to the Tory line, but apparently there's a problem with the line to College Green. That's it. I'm going home because I live there. Goodbye. Back in 3.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, a bit of a technical issue, but we will be speaking to Kieran Mullen, Shadow Justice Minister and Conservative MP for Bexhill and Battle, in the next hour. Slight problems with overrunnings and stuff like that, but I am fighting through this. I refuse to bow to the technical gremlins that are incorporating the studio this morning. What is it, 10 to 8? We're live across the UK. Good morning, my name's Jeremy Kyle. You're waking up to the news that Reform UK have reported Zach Polanski to the police for sharing a photo of a T-shirt about Nigel Farage's execution. A man, a T-shirt, a guillotine, all of that just 2 weeks after the friend and colleague Anne Widdecombe was callously murdered. Apparently the Met Police are looking into the social media post. Is it time for Zach Polanski to resign? Is it time for the world to see the Greens for what they are? Non-environmental misfit activists. Just my opinion. 0344 499 1000. Can't leave a voice note this morning. You've got to make a live call. A new poll putting Labour ahead of Reform for the first time in a year. 28 to 24. Is that the Burnham bounce or a Reform on the back foot? And fears this morning that the Prime Minister, whilst promising greatness amongst everywhere, could in fact raise a death tax, which will mean a 10% levy on all inheritances to fund social care. Do you agree with paying more tax on money that you've already been taxed on, to the point of helping or not? 0344 499 1000. Further to the above, maybe all homeowners, says Lynn Essex, should start releasing equity in their homes and spend it on whatever they want, and then what's left is left. Hopefully not. Listen, I think that is something that's going to happen. Cheers, Carl from the Lakes. When I left school, I went on the YTS back then. I went on to an apprenticeship and helped build our present nuclear deterrent. I'm now a senior mechanical designer. The YTS was a great confidence giver and motivates youngsters to achieve their ambitions. It's 9 minutes to 8 now. Raging wildfires in France are described by Macron as the biggest challenge to the French since World War II. The coming weeks are going to be very tough. People have missed out on holidays. Many tourists facing a battle to claim wildfire refunds. There's only one man. He is the legend that is Simon Calder with exotic location. Well, you're not an exotic location. Where are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. I'm at home in South London. I tend to spend quite a lot of July and August at home, not least because there's plenty of transport chaos. Be prepared for rail strikes beginning this coming Saturday and all manner of malarkey. Yeah, really concerning scenes over in France. By the way, I thought that the Nation thinks that you are on a YTS scheme. Is that not correct?
You want to take aim at me? Really? How do your family feel at you best spending July and August at home? They're not as happy as you are they, Calder? Eh?
Anyway, there's an awful lot of people who are not glad they are not in southwest France. Absolutely terrible scenes.
Awful pictures.
Awful 200,000 people evacuated, and of course many people, I've just heard in the past few minutes from somebody who's booked to travel at the weekend to southwest France with a couple of kids going on a camping trip, and they are really worried. They've been told they cannot cancel their trip without losing all their money.
It's not very
and
fair.
Yet with the scenes that you are seeing show that there's an awful lot of concern out there. And Sophie Broca, who is the prefect of the Gironde department, so the place which is worst affected, has said, we do not want people here. Please go away if you're already here, and don't come here if you have if you've got a holiday booked. Go somewhere else instead until we are in a better position, because otherwise you might just become part of the problem.
Well, the one thing that you've always been is a voice for those people who have booked a holiday or have booked travel and don't know how to get their money back or whatever. The story that you just told about a couple who are telling they can't cancel, that's appalling. If you can't, I mean, Bordeaux is under fire. They're saying this is going to continue to spread. Macron himself says the coming weeks will be tough. Why the bloody hell wouldn't those people who just booked a camping trip to an area which is now on fire, why should they not be able to get their money back? What are they supposed to do, Simon?
Well, I've been trying to find out, and this has only happened in the past few minutes, where exactly the camping location is, because actually, while this has been absolutely devastating for certain parts of France, west of Bordeaux, southwest of Bordeaux. Actually, life continues elsewhere in southwest France, and it may be that their holiday company, which might be further down the coast in somewhere like Biarritz, is simply saying, look, you can come and have your holiday. It will be perfectly normal. I think, by the way, people who are in that part of France are going to be very aware that there are forest fires simply from the smell in the air. But unfortunately, the rules on refunds, if there is a problem, partly depend on what the Foreign Office says. And at the moment, they're saying, watch out if you are going to southwest France, and of course, obey the instructions from the emergency services. But they're stopping short of saying, do not go.
Yeah.
And if you have, looking at these terrible scenes, if you book somewhere which is clearly has been devastated, then that holiday will not go ahead.
Yeah.
If you've booked a package, then you can just say to the travel company that organised your transport and your accommodation, I'd like all my money back. But otherwise, I'm afraid the transport providers might say, sorry, you've booked your cross-channel ferry or your flight to Bordeaux. That's still going ahead. You cannot have any money back on that.
Terrible pictures, as you said. Wish I had more time. Where would you, as the expert, Calder, where's the most popular place to go on holiday this summer?
Greek islands, I would definitely say, it's going to be warm, but very beautiful, extremely low cost. There are some fantastic deals for families, even now, peak of the summer season. Just talk to your travel agent and they will sort you out with a great deal.
And one final question, because we like a laugh, we love you. You're like a piece of the furniture here. This morning on the front of the Mail, a chaplain called Emma has decided she looks like Andy Burnham, so she's renamed herself Mandy Burnham. Who have you been told you look like in your life, Mr. Calder?
All sorts of people. The excellent Nicholas Crane from Coast. Also, I think Jeremy Clarkson described me as Professor Stephen Hawking's look-alike. I've also been described as Louis Theroux, interestingly, although I think he's rather younger and more handsome than me. And even Radio 2 and Channel 5's Jeremy Vine, whoever he is.
Never heard of him. Calder, right? The Stephen Hawking thing's brilliant. You're a legend. Thank you. We'll always have you on. We appreciate everything you do at home in South London, talking about those wildfires in France. Almost 8 o'clock. We've got Carl Turner. Has he got the Labour whip back? Or whip? Or even whip? We're back after the news at 8 next.
Jamila Jamil, who has made her career out of calling people out on literally anything with the faintest whiff of controversy, only to find herself in controversy time and time again, whether it's feuds with celebrities, social media rows, accusations. She even disowned her entire family, claiming that they are fat-phobic. Well, if your worldview boils down to 70 million people being villains because of where they are born, that is not courageous. It's actually very lazy and entitled.
UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement. After 2 hours of blackout, the voice note system on WhatsApp is working. Get your voice notes in now, 0344 499 1000. Get your text, 87222. Back in the 70s, Jez, during my apprenticeship, my first lookalike nickname was John Conti. This is because the Sun this morning saying that a vicar says, I'm Mandy Burnham. She's changed her name on TikTok. He says, well, I think that's what they call me. Then Magnum PI came along and it all changed. Now, 40 years later, I've got to be honest, it's Clive in Northampton. I look like bloody Gollum. So it's all gone wrong. I know the feeling. Now, apparently the voice notes are working. But I would just like to point out that this might prove they're working, but I need far more effort. Morning, Rob.
Morning, Jezza. Rob here.
Brilliant. OK, well, the system's working, but it would be great if you had something useful to say. 0344 499 1000. We're waking up to the news that Reform UK have reported Zach Polanski to police for sharing a photo of a T-shirt. It was about Nigel Farage's execution, making plans for Nigel, a guillotine. What do you make of that? Is this a resigning manager for the Brest whisperer, Dave Polanski? Does anybody really care about the Greens? Their opinion poll ratings have started to drop well before this. I think the left are rowing in behind Burnham. Meanwhile, a new poll puts Labour in front of Reform for the first time in a year. Great news for the Labour. They're all moving behind Andy Burnham. But he, of course, making a series of announcements, will be held to account, not in Parliament, no scrutiny, but when he announces things like his this dreaded death tax, which could mean a 10% levy on all inheritances to fund social care. We all agree with funding social care. I'm not quite sure whether you think that paying tax on money you've already earned and paid tax on is an altogether good thing. We'd love your thoughts. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. And a Palestine protester, my favourite story of the day, who scaled Big Ben last year, has avoided jail. He's got poor eyesight. So he was on, there he is, he's just watching, 17 hours he was on Elizabeth Tower. It cost the taxpayer and police $92,000, but the judges let him off saying he had bad eyesight. Is there any truth in the fact that he actually thought he was climbing a ladder? I've no idea. 0344 499 1000. Let's go north to Hull East. We love him. Independent MP Carl Turner. Morning, Carl. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. We're on holiday in Greece, Jeremy. We're in Airbnb, but we've been camping, so we're that's where we are at today.
Hold on a minute. I can tell you've been camping. You haven't got your iron on your T-shirts creased. Have you got the whip back yet, Turner?
I've not, Jeremy. I'm expecting it any time. I've been told that it's coming.
Really? Let's talk. We've only got 10 minutes. Let's talk. I'd firstly like your response to the Zach Polanski photograph, and I want to make the point here. I'm not having a go individual. I'm making a point. If the right had posted a picture like that on the back of what happened to poor Anne Widdecombe, there would have been a bloody outrage. Zach Polanski, I think, I mean, more than a resigning matter, is disgraceful, isn't it, Carl?
I think it's absolutely terrible and crass and uncalled for and stupid. Is it a resigning issue? I'm not sure about that. He's not a member of Parliament. He's the leader of a party. He's not got a seat in Parliament. If he had a seat in Parliament, there'd be disciplinary processes that he could be going through. The Speaker would have something to say, for an example, and then there'd be the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards who would be involved. But he's not a member of Parliament. Can you force him to resign? I doubt it, because it's a matter for him whether he resigns. I'm not sure I'd call for his resignation for this. I think I'd just point to the fact that he's done something which is terribly ill-judged, unthought through, and very crass. And to be honest, let's be fair about this, quite dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with you. You must be buoyant. A new poll this morning showing Labour ahead of reform for the first time in more than a year. The More in Common poll found that 28% of the electorate would vote for Labour if a general election was held tomorrow. For me, I'd love your opinion. Is this the Burnham bounce, or is this an issue with reform? They seem to be less proactive at the moment. They seem to be dealing with stuff that's being thrown at them. What's your take on this, Carl?
Well, I'll tell you for a start, I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch, because it's a poll. The reform have led in the last 12 months and more.
Yeah.
So it's a one poll for a start. How does it translate to my constituency? Not because I'm terribly selfish and I want to win mine, but because my constituency, where the voted 74% leave, is a real comparator for the rest of the red wall, which we must win in order to win the government. So I'm not getting excitable, but I think Burnham is doing better. Why is he doing better? Because he can just speak human. He can just speak. He can say, you know, he can talk to people in a way that's normal behaviour. You can do it. I'm not blowing smoke. I can do it, Jeremy. Some politicians can't do that, believe it or believe it not. I think Burnham can. And sadly, bless his corn socks, Keir Starmer couldn't get that.
Let's. I mean, I've. You know, let me be honest. We don't have to be on the same political side, but we're mates. I was listening to. Well, I was sent. Somebody on the left was saying, yeah, but that's typical of Talk and Carl and all those people. All they'll do is they'll just go, yeah, well, he's good, and I've said that communications-wise. I've said it for the last week. I think he's brilliant at that, but I think it's also perfectly relevant to say that we have to hold his feet to the fire, because it's all well and good. No scrutiny in the House of Commons, 6 weeks to make whatever announcements. You can talk about your buses, you can talk about your VAT. We need, as a country, because of the state we're in, you will agree with this, to know how these things are being funded. So this morning, of course, the papers, all of them talking about this dreaded £18 billion death tax nightmare. Andy Burnham's always spoken about how he'd like to levy 10% on all inheritances to fund social care. What's your view on that as a policy? Because that's about as popular as Zach Polanski on this station.
Well, I doubt whether he's going to do anything which is terribly reckless. I think policy which comes from number 10 and number 11 is going to be cautious. Why do I say that? I think because John Ely is not a loose cannon. He's just not. I think he's just as cautious as Rachel Reeves or any other Chancellor, frankly. So I don't think there's going to be anything reckless happening. Do I agree that we need to decide what we're doing with social care? Absolutely I do, because it's crippling the NHS and it's bankrupting families.
But do you agree with charging hard-working people, not multimillionaires, not the elite in the South, do you agree with saying to people, thank you for working all your life and paying tax, and when you die, we're going to make you pay more tax on money you've already been taxed on? Is that fair, or is it fairer? And this flies in the face of most Labour MPs, and you know this, we've spoken before, to say, do you know what? We've always been a country that gives foreign aid, but we're giving 11 billion quid when our own country is, in all respects, on its arse. Should we not look at that, and should we not also say, for the first time in history, I think all parties, look, we love the welfare system for what it was meant to do, but there are feckless people taking advantage, and I could find 20, 30 million there and 10 billion I'm talking about here, by the way, in terms of foreign aid, and that would sort out social care, and that would sort out defence. But it will take your Prime Minister to stand in front of your parliamentary Labour Party and say, we need to do something about welfare. Whether you like it or not, there are people taking advantage, Carl. That, to me, is what Burnham can do and change his whole political career. Do I think he'll do it? I don't know.
I think he'll do it, Jeremy, because you're right, £330 billion a year for welfare is money that is well, let's just be fair, it's a massive amount of money.
Yeah, but Starmer couldn't get a $5 billion cut, Carl.
Starmer couldn't get a $5 billion cut because Starmer went around the issue badly, in my view. He didn't speak to the PLP. He didn't bring us with him. He didn't explain the policy. He just said, that's what we're doing and get on with it. And then 120 MPs voted against.
Yeah.
There was plenty of warning that they were going to vote against, but you couldn't even get a meeting back then, Jeremy, with the parliamentary private secretary to the Prime Minister to tell the PPS what was worrying you. You got a meeting with the Chief Whip time and again. I went to see Alan Campbell as Chief Whip on the very issue, and that was fine. But you couldn't get to speak to anybody on the policy. You were just told, we were doing it, hard cheddar. And that's when MPs rebelled.
Do you think that Burnham's got enough political capital to say to the PLP, whether you like this or not, we are going to have to, for the first time probably in Labour history, say this is bloated, it is being taken advantage of, the genuine people are missing out. Because I genuinely believe, and this doesn't sit with me, but I'm trying to do the job correctly, that if Burnham, right, who hasn't mentioned the boats, by the way, I'll make that point, if he stopped the boats, cut the welfare benefit, or did something about net zero, he could hold an election and win a majority. I say that as a non-Labour supporter. I just wonder whether he's got the balls or he's got the political capital, Carl.
Let me tell you, Jeremy, I think there's two things. First of all, the Parliamentary Labour Party knows this is the end. Right. This is our last chance. We know this is it. We're finished if this doesn't succeed. That's the first point. Second point is, Andy Burnham has got a better way of speaking with the PLP and carrying people with him.
Yep.
So if the DWP Secretary of State, Pat McFadden, decides this is how we're going to have to do something, then the Treasury agrees, and Burnham puts the argument to the PLP. One, we know we've no choice but to concede and go with it. And secondly, the fact is, they trust him. Trust is important. I think 379 of the PLP voted to support his nomination, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of people saying, you know what, I'm putting my head above the parapet. I've not got any sort of misgivings about this guy. I'm 100% in. So he's got all of that.
It'll be really interesting. I want to talk longer, but I can't because I know you've got a movie caravan, but I've got to move on. But I just want to read something to you very quickly. Front page of The Sun this morning. I've had a great text. Can you put a picture of Andy Burnham up between me and Carl, please? Here, a chaplain, a dead ringer for the new PM, is calling herself Mandy Burnham on TikTok. She's a vicar. She thinks she looks like him. I've had an astonishing text just now, Carl Turner. I reckon... Is it me, or does Carl Turner look like Andy Burnham after a few years as Prime Minister? That's a bit bloody rude, isn't it, man?
That's a bit rude, but it's weird, really. We've got the same dog. Axel is identical to my Charlie. I think Burnham's got a similar quiff to me. I think he might have nicked it, or I might have nicked his. And we definitely wear the same bins.
I love it. I love it. You're a legend. You'll always be welcome. Enjoy the rest of the holiday. 8:15. Carl Turner still awaiting the whip back from the new Prime Minister. He's had it promised. We'll keep you updated. Let's cross now to College Green in Westminster. We were a bit late early. Delighted he could find time for us. Kieran Mullen, Conservative Shadow Justice Minister. Kieran, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for fitting me in.
Not at all, my friend. Thank you. I mean, I know you want to talk about how Kemi has urged Burnham to stop early release of dangerous criminals, and we'll get to that. I'd just like a couple of quick responses. Always do this to stuff in the news. Zach Polanski liking that picture of Nigel Farage being executed. What's the Tory response to that disgusting act this morning, Kieran?
It's appalling, and he'll have to account for why he did that. I understand he says it was inadvertent, but, you know, you have a responsibility, as any politician, but particularly as a party leader, to be incredibly careful about the images you're sharing and what you're seen to be supporting. That image clearly has a suggestion of violence, and this comes on the back of the appalling murder of Anne Widdecombe, something that I know the whole country was shocked by. But I'm afraid Zach Polanski has a record on this. I'm sure some of your viewers will remember that when there was that awful attack in North London on the Jewish community, and we had two very brave police officers tackling the knifeman, tackling him to the ground, quite rightly using some pretty robust force to do that. There's that Polanski shared stuff on social media criticising them for doing that. He has a record. It's not just him. I'm afraid there's all sorts of stuff that goes on with Green Party councillors and party members on social media sharing stuff that I think most of us think is appalling. I know, for example, it was raised at PMQs a few weeks ago, a Green Party councillor suggesting that politicians like James Cleverly and David Lammy, black politicians, were coconuts. You know, it's really horrific stuff, and they have to get a grip of it, but it doesn't surprise me.
It's interesting, because I said to Robert Jenrick, and he said, look, and Carl said it, he's not an elected MP, I'm not calling for him to go. He said, to me, they've all said it rather sums up the sort of misguided activist bunch of misfits that the Green Party are. And actually, let's be honest, they'd started to drop in the poll. Can I just ask you, new poll out today, more in common. Yes, Labour heading reform, we can say it's a burn and bounce, we can say that the reform is being a little bit more less proactive and less, you know, the criticism's flowing. The Tories up to 22. Everybody agrees, Kieran, that Kemi Badenoch is doing a great job and is getting traction on a personal level. I ask this of all Tories because I think it's an important question. Is it frustrating that your leader's getting traction and the party isn't really moving, or is it just a matter of time? Because I for one, would say I was critical of Kemi for taking a year to make any announcement, but I have to say, increasingly, whenever she speaks, it's been costed, thought through and presented in a very impressive way.
Well, politicians should never be frustrated by voters. Voters are absolutely have every right to think what they think and support who they want to support. All it does is put more pressure, if you want to call it that, on us to make sure that the public understand that Kemi and the party were all on the same page on these issues. She has our full backing on being someone that speaks the truth, who speaks plainly, who's got a backbone, who is willing to say things that people don't want to hear. And as ministers, she's very clear to us as shadow ministers that the plans that we bring forward, the things that we want to announce, need to be thought through, they need to be credible, they need to be deliverable, because she knows the public have had enough of promises that can't be delivered. And so I think over time the public will understand that we've got her back, we're working together as one team, and that we can deliver effective government in this country as opposed to chaos with the other parties. So no, never frustrated, always more to do.
Do you actually genuinely believe that in 3 years, let's say, slightly from where your party was after 14 years and the toxicity that many people and politicians at the front rank of the Tory party have admitted to this to me for the last 2 years, where you were, do you genuinely believe that this woman and this party can be forgiven enough to form a government in 3 years' time?
Yes, absolutely, and I speak to voters in my own constituency who tell me that they have understood where we went wrong, but I think with time people have come to see, in contrast to Labour and some of the terrible decisions they've made, that yes, we made some mistakes, but we also did some good things. Let's contrast, for example, our record on jobs, record levels of employment, hundreds of new jobs created every day, youth unemployment down, and unemployment generally down, Labour unemployment rocketing, particularly for young people, police officers. We, in the end, added police officers' numbers. Police officer numbers have gone down under Labour. Wherever you look, more borrowing, more spending, all these things, more taxes, we delivered more effectively during our time in government. So I think that's caused people to reappraise what we did during government. But as I said, people are always willing to listen, I find, and my voters in my constituency are willing to listen, and we're getting there. I know, because I meet people who say that they would be happy to vote for us again now.
Let's just talk about, you're the Shadow Justice Minister, Kemi Badenoch, in the last couple of days, urging Andy Burnham to stop the early release of dangerous criminals. This, of course, was highlighted because of that appalling story the other day. PC Andrew Harper, who was killed, dragged behind a car that he was trying to stop. 3 young youths, one driving it, got 18 years, 2 on the back, got 13 years. I mean, devastated his family and a nation. His wife, Kissy, actually, I thought it was incredible, got together with all parties and created Harper's Law for mandatory life sentences for people who kill a policeman on duty. And yet we discover that after 6 years, these two scumbags, and I apologise, but it infuriates me this, that were on the back seat, would be out after 6 years. I don't know how any government has ever thought it right that dangerous criminals or people who have caused somebody's death should be allowed out. And I would go further, Kieran, and say, and I don't know what your party's stance is, I think most people in this country fail to understand and are sick to the back teeth of being told, right, you get 5 years, under Labour you can be out after 2, you get 10, under Labour you can be out after 3. What is the bloody point of telling somebody that the crime they've committed warrants that and then letting them out? Why not make them serve the whole bloody sentence, build more prisoners and get rid of foreign convictees so that we've space to say to people, prison's a punishment?
Yeah, I had the privilege of working with Lissy directly on that campaign that you mentioned. An amazing woman and an amazing husband that she lost so tragically in those horrific circumstances. But I'm sorry to say that I know you've covered it extensively over recent weeks. It isn't just people like Lissy. Today we're having a meeting with Kemi and the survivors of grooming gangs, of horrific rapes, all sorts of terrible crimes. And actually we know now that almost 9,000 victims of serious offences have been written to tell them that their offender might get out earlier. And now, we warned Labour about this. We warned them months ago when they first passed this legislation that this would be the result. I'm afraid they misled Parliament, they misled MPs and the public, because they said the most serious offenders would be excluded, and we now know that simply isn't true. We welcome the fact that Andy Burnham said that there's going to be a pause, but actually a pause isn't enough. He has to change the law. They passed this law, they put it through the House of Commons, they actually put it through the House of Lords with the help of the Lib Dems, and so they has to change the law, and that's what we're doing today. We're drawing attention to the fact that a pause, to say there's a pause is one thing, but actually these victims need certainty that they're not going to let these sorts of people out, and in order to do that he will have to pass new legislation, and we stand ready to help him ensure that he does that.
And I always hear, don't I, from politicians, oh, you know, it's got to go through the House. Well, and I'm not being flippant, when he wanted to keep pubs open, Starmer, for the World Cup, he passed that piece of legislation in a heartbeat. If he wanted to save British Steel, he did that within 24 hours and got that on the statute book. I am completely with you. We need to make the point repeatedly that the early release of serious offenders, including paedophiles and rapists, is happening because of this Labour government. Well, Starmer's government. Will be interesting to see what Burnham does. It is fundamentally flawed and wrong, and in fact the justice system really needs looking at. Kieran, I'm sorry we missed you 40 minutes ago, but delighted you could find space and time, and we appreciate you very much for coming on this morning. Kieran Mullen, Tory MP, Shadow Justice Minister, 823. Let's respond to that. Here's a great man, former police officer, always tells it like it is. Norman Brennan, good morning, welcome to breakfast.
Yeah, good morning.
So Starmer, we're not sure about your man Burnham yet. He's all this a bit, but he says he'll pause it. Passed a law that allowed the early release of prisoners, and he said it was going to be, you know, what I call minimal prisoners. No, it's actually paedophiles and rapists. Burnham says he'll pause it. If Burnham's got any political noggins about him, he would absolutely throw this disgusting piece of legislation out, and in fact, I believe, should do what I've said, which is in part a law that says if you get 5 years, you serve in 5 years, and I'm going to find space in prisons by either building them or getting rid of foreign criminals. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I mean, let's be honest, let's cut to the chase. What a bloody mess we're in. Our prison system's in absolute chaos. Our criminal justice system's in absolute chaos. And every political party over the last 20 or 30 years, and I've been in policing for almost 48 years and law and order, no one has come up with any solutions. Let me cut to the chase. There's two types of people that are sent to prison. Excuse me. The first type is someone that commits a very serious crime, a rape, a shooting, a murder. It's absolutely right that they are sent to prison for a long time. The second type of person that's sent to prison are those that are called persistent offenders, recidivists. They commit crime after crime after crime. So a magistrate or a judge reaches the point where they say, we have given you all the alternatives. And just as a caveat to that, Jeremy, we're now talking about giving these people home curfews, tags, work in the community. What an absolute rhymes with rollocks. Most of these offenders have absolutely exhausted every alternative. So the reasons why someone is sent to prison, why you and I know, is to punish them, to deter others and them in future behaviour, and to reassure the public and the victims that they leave behind. And fourthly is rehabilitation. But we turn that on the head, and all we hear about is rehabilitation. If you commit a serious crime and it's over 4 years, you're supposed to go to prison for 2/3 of that sentence.
Yep.
And if it's under 4 years, it's 50%. Most offenders, in my personal and professional opinion and career, rarely ever get the sentence they rightly deserve. It's often very low. So when they get released from the sentences I've just given you, it's almost a respite. And the final point, Jeremy, is this. People say prisons are universities of crime. Let me tell you, hundreds of offenders that I've sent to prison have got very few new tricks to learn. The thing about community sentences, it's the open universities of crime where persistent criminals and serious offenders continue their trade.
What I love everything that you've said, but what really resonates with me is this belief that somehow, you know, again, an example in this country, okay, of, you know, there was, let's just be practical, Norman, and honest. 30, 40 years ago, there probably was some racism in the police. There probably was unfairness in the workplace. Women weren't looked at in the same way. There were problems with minorities. But we have gone so bloody far the other way. You've absolutely nailed it for me. Yes, of course, prison should be rehabilitation, but it is also a bloody punishment. And if you're saying to somebody who gets 5 years, you can be out in 24 months, and if you spent 12 on parole or remand, rather, you'll be out. It doesn't send a message. We need to prove that that the crime doesn't pay. That doesn't get created if you say, oh, don't worry, mate, we'll let you out because we need some space for somebody else. We need to prove to people, and you said as a deterrent, if you do that, if you get fired with a knife, you're going to prison under my rule for 5 years. You're not coming out. You're going to learn what it is to break the bloody law. We're not going to wipe your backside and say, oh, I know you've committed a crime, but let's get you a job. No, let's not. Let's make you understand that you broke the law and you've no place in civil society with the behaviour you've shown. What's wrong with that?
Jeremy, I'm an old fart. I'm heading towards the purple curtains and soft music.
Oh, God, so am I.
For 50 years, since I was 19 years of age, I've been involved in policing and law and order and caring for victims. My expertise is homicide, gun and knife crime. As a lead expert on law and order and policing in Britain, we are in such chaos. I cannot see from the political parties we got, whoever they are, anything changing in Britain for the next 10 or 20 years.
But it needs to, Norman, it needs to. Parties need to listen, right?
Oh, but they're not. They always listen, but they might as well throw their notes in the bin as they go out. Because you and I know that the prisons are full, and the reason they're full is because no political parties had the will and the foresight in the past 20 or 30 years to build new prisons. How can you say to victims of society, when it's the duty of a government to protect its borders and streets, I'm sorry, we got too many people in prison. The person that committed that crime against you and devastated and destroyed your life will soon be out or not even go to prison.
And you could
when they do go, it's for a short time.
And you could add to that, that's if the bloody police who were decimated, starting with Theresa May, let's nail that, even bother to either turn up or have the manpower to turn up and look into your crime. Because nowadays you can get 6 months off work by filling out a form and saying you've got anxiety, and now you get told, just fill in a form, we'll give you a crime note, you can get your insurance, and all of that disappears. I'm so with you. You know, to me, you're right, all politicians. We need to have the balls and the courage and the gumption to say you've committed a crime, you're going to prison. We can make spaces by, as you quite rightly said, building more prisons, getting rid of foreign criminals, freeing up the space and sending a really strong message. Because if prison isn't a deterrent, what the hell is... But you get them all, Norman, they go to me, yes, but what you've got to understand, Jez, is we need to rehabilitate these serious criminals. What about the victim? The victim wants some justice, and the justice is you've done the crime, you're going to do the time, and you're not getting out in the meantime. So I see it, mate. That's exactly how I see it. Sum it up.
I'll tell you what, if we had the will, we would make sure that the streets of Britain and our borders are safe. The sad reality is we have political leaders, all they do is snipe at each other and they bear bait in Parliament. And people like you and me, we park our cars, we leave our bikes locked up, they're stolen, they're actually nicked, and people's lives are devastated. It's the victims that pick up the devastation and serve the true sentence of the trauma and stress and having to pay out to replace their cars and replace their bikes that are stolen. And when you say to the criminals, well, look, we've got too many people in prison. We're not going to send you to prison or send you there for such a short period of time. It's basically a licence to steal and commit crime.
Couldn't agree more. Norm, it's always great to have you, and you don't look a day over 68. Honestly, watch him smile. He did smile. There's the boy. Thank you, Norm. We'll speak to you very soon. Just gone 8:30. We're live across the UK. Breakfast on Talk, the home of common sense and the home of Alarm Clock Brit. You heard there from Carl Turner awaiting the whip back. His thoughts on, of course, Andy Burnham. We heard from Kieran Mullen, Shadow Justice Minister, about how he believes the release of early criminals, as do the Tory party's disgrace, and Norman Brennan saying we need to toughen up. That's what you get on Talk. Common sense, honesty, and most of all, we need a drum roll, because 2.5 hours into the show, the voice note system is working. Darren, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Absolutely balanced show. A few technical issues. You should speak to Mark Doland. He's got a great team. I'm furious, absolutely furious about Zach Polanski. Supposed to be the head of a party, supposed to be a head of a responsible party, calling for the death of another human being. What a horrible, horrible, horrible man. We, the British people, have had enough. How dare these people operate in our establishment? Our establishment. Darren Bristol, have a great day.
Absolutely nothing.
In 4 years, blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:35. We're live across the UK. JK on Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense. Of course, Alex Phillips in for Julia Hartley-Brewer all this week. Sounding brilliant. Here from 10. Ian Collins, the housewife's favourite. Well, Mrs. Carl's favourite. He's here from 1. And Kev O'Sullivan here from 4. Sounding brilliant on drive time. Sorry, could I just point out that last voice note, Ches, you need a better team, because like Mark Dolan, right? He's called Dolan, not Doland. They're my team. I lend them to him on Friday. So actually, it's not their fault. It's not my fault. It's just, anyway, we're cured. However, when it comes to voice notes, which have become a staple of this programme, I'm still looking for more quality. I don't mean quality in terms of technical. We've sorted that. Morning, Johnny.
Morning, Jezza. It's Johnny in the van. Great to hear that the WhatsApp in again. Just wanted... Farage, the Green Party, that Kerr, isn't he? Huh? Honestly, great, mate. Keep it up.
Brilliant. So the concept works. People are back, but honestly, fantastic. 0344 499 1000. Chris says Polanski is a disgrace to politics, promoting for a fellow politician to be executed in the wake of that appalling Anne Widdecombe murder. Jezza, regarding the breast whisperer, let's see if two-tier policing rears its ugly head and lets him off with a caution. Of course it will. Absolutely will do. Sorry, can we get this right? I've given up, says Michael Hamlin, on all our so-called politicians and political parties. Everyone, it's all talk with no substance and certainly no action forthcoming. Being a Reform UK member, they also appear to have lost their momentum. Until we get common sense and our British values back in politics, it's only going to get worse, which I believe is now too late, and multicultural politics is here to stay, regardless of what we're told by our so-called bosses. Michael in Milton Keynes. Text 87222. Start your message with the word talk, and you can indeed send a voice note, just a better quality than Johnny, on that number, 0344 419 1000. Of course, Andy Burnham became Prime Minister a week ago and under no scrutiny from the House of Commons, has a free rein for 6 weeks to spout out what, and let's be honest, I said at the beginning, he's good at the optics. He's certainly better at politics than Keir Starmer. I think this phone would have been better at politics than Keir Starmer. But I think people who care about this country, people who aren't seduced just by the words, have every right to say, hold on a minute, how are you going to pay for this? We woke up this morning to hear that there are fears that the Prime Minister will impose a death tax, which could mean a 10% levy on all inheritances to fund social care. So you're going to charge you tax on money that you've already paid tax on when you're no longer here, so that your relatives miss out. I'd love your thoughts on that, but a man who's written an amazing article today, page 10 of The Sun. Good morning to Ian Drury. How are you, my friend? Jeremy. Burnham silent on immigration. We all know about your Smith's Gold Disc and the Scampy Fries PM, but what about the migrant votes? Absolutely nailed it. We've heard nothing about potentially, I would say, the biggest thing in British politics and in people's minds.
It's, I mean, there was a YouGov poll the other day that said that immigration is as big a priority for the public as the economy, and people are particularly sick to death sick to back teeth of illegal immigration. You know, our borders are wide open. It puts, you know, our security and safety at risk, and it costs us a fortune. And this is no longer just small boats. I mean, we've seen in the past week since Burnham became Prime Minister, these supersized dinghies, the so-called Burnham boats coming over, one of them carrying 165 fighting-age men. You know, who are we letting into this country?
Can I ask you a question? Because I don't... I mean, you know far more than me, but I don't understand, right? So, if you are Andy Burnham, right now you have political capital that nobody else has. You've had 400 MPs who have brought you from outside, given you the keys to 10 Downing Street, and they know that he is their last chance. Which is why I said earlier this morning, has he got the balls to stand in front of the Parliamentary Labour Party and say, we're going to have to do something about welfare, whether you like it or not? And Carl Turner said, you know, he can take them with him because he's got an approach which is different. Why in the name of God have a succession of politicians never, ever stood in front of the British people and gone, I know what your number one concern is, and I'm not going to fudge the issue. I'm going to send in the Navy, or I'm going to make you guys understand that I'm putting you first. Is there... People tell me, and they go, there's no will to do it. People don't want to do it. Why not? Our country is under enormous pressure, and illegal migrants are making it worse, and that's what people want. They want action. They genuinely do.
They do, and as you say, you know, where there's a will, there should be a way.
Do you think politicians, he says dribbling, do you think politicians don't want to do it? Scared of it?
Yeah, I think over the past 10 or 15 years, to the shame of the Tory party at the time, you know, they didn't want to get a grip on this. They thought, you know, they all thought the same thing. You know, the immigration is a good thing. It improves the economy, which we all know that it doesn't anymore. You know, they're unwilling to take the tough decisions that need taking.
Do you think Burnham can?
No, I mean, Burnham is... You know, he's got 400 majority. He could, if he wanted to, push it through, force a parliamentary party through, but his backbenchers won't have it. You know, the not so soft left are you know, completely... The policies he would need to implement, you know, detention on arrival, huge numbers deported, cutting handouts to migrants, it makes them squirm. They'd have a fit of the vapours.
But you see, this is what I don't understand. We've got a record 165 migrants reached the UK in a single boat the other day. The number broke the previous record for July, when 128 crossed the Channel from France in one vessel. You say they get the heebie-jeebies. If that was me, I'd stand in front of the British people and I'd go, hear me out, you'll think I'm mad. We opened our borders and were sold the BS, frankly, that everybody that came across was a doctor or a surgeon. When that didn't wash, they said to us, these people will do the jobs that are essential, like hospital porters and fruit pickers, to grab two examples. Do you know what I say? I'd close those borders, right, and I'd say to the 2 million feckless people who are taking advantage on benefits, because that's another thing that people need to have the balls to talk about, do you know what? Whilst we are paying you whilst you look, you're going to give something back to society. So you buggers, you can pick fruit, you can work as hospital porters, whilst we find or you find work. And I'm closing the border and getting rid of that belief that allowing anybody and everybody to come in. The reason people come to this country is because we're soft. But we're no longer soft on the people that seemingly matter, which is, I don't say the British, the English, the indigenous population. It's wrong. So wrong. And I would have thought it's a massive win for any politician.
If they had if he had a smidgen of political nous, he would press on with tackling this problem. We've seen over the last, only on Sunday, the Sun on Sunday revealed a group of migrants suspected of fleeing to the UK in a small boat. Hours after stabbing a man to death on the beach in northern France. Who are we letting in? And if he had this is increasingly salient with the public. And the more mainstream politicians don't grasp the nettle, the more they will look to somebody who will grasp the nettle. And it will take guts, and it will take pushback against the establishment blob, the civil service. You're going to have to repeal the Human Rights Act. You're going to have to go through the left-wing, the activist judiciary like a dose of salt. You're going to have to curb legal aid and judicial review, put people in detention camps and say, if you're there and until your asylum claim is sorted out, and if it's failed, you stay there.
But it's like we're having this discussion, right? And if you're so in politics, presumably you go into politics with a view to offering real change. If you were in any way acknowledging that you've got your finger on the pulse of the British public right now, this would be the #1 concern. So I can never work out whether it's fear of not having the answer. A fear of the opposition that you get. Because, Reform will say, detain and deport. And then you look at America and people say, what, are we going to have ICE? We don't have guns. But if you're not here legally, I saw a great, I'm sure you've seen it, Ian, there was a great clip which keeps coming up from 1983 with Thatcher, and she was asked a question, have you seen it? And she said, if the right honourable gentleman is suggesting that people should be able to come to this country illegally and not be deported, but be allowed to settle here and not work, he's talking about international chaos. That was 42 years ago. Make of what you want of Margaret Thatcher. I thought she was bloody fantastic. That's what she said, and that's where we've got to. And, of course, the other argument is it's always Britain, isn't it? Because we give more. They go through 7 safe countries. They don't bring their wife and children. It's all go to Great Britain. Yeah. And I think the British people have probably allowed this to go for ages, but now they won't.
I think that's right. And they are looking for politicians who have answers to these problems. As you said at the start, Burnham said he was going to do politics in a different way. He was going to listen to people's priorities.
Well, listen, mate.
What has he done? He's talked about scampi fries and his Smith's gold disc. This looks great on TikTok and social media, but is it solving the issues that the public want to be solved?
Let's have a voice note which is very relevant to what we're talking about. Mick, good morning.
Morning, Jezzy. If only we could stop being the World Health Service and the World Welfare Service, where we give anybody from all over the world benefits when they haven't put a single penny into it, then we might not have to tax our dead people. Hey, let's start taking care of the UK before we start taking care of the whole world.
And you see, for me, Ian, right, I don't, tell me if you disagree, I like disagreeing, but I don't understand how anybody can call that sort of attitude, oh, that's far-right, populist and divisive. No, it's not divisive. This man's worked all his life. He'd like to have a pension. He'd like to feel safe. He'd like to, if there's a crime committed, be able to call the police. He'd like, having paid him for 50 years, to be able to see a doctor or a dentist. And he looks over his shoulder and goes, hold on a minute, so you've come in here illegally, you're in a hotel, you've got a phone, you've got a credit card, and I'm working 60 hours a week to feed my kids. I don't break the law. I live absolutely on the line. I can barely afford to go on holiday. And you don't think that I'm going to think my government's taking the whatsits out of me? That's how it is.
As we say in the article today, you know, again, Burnham said cost of living crisis, making it easier for people, on people's pockets, investing in public service. Those were the things he wanted to do. Well, if he wants to do that, the 900 people who've come into Britain illegally on his watch on small boats will cost, over their lifetime, will cost the taxpayer £400,000 each. That's at least £360 million. Why don't you crack down on this scandal and put that money back into the place he needs to?
I mean, I really struggle with what is difficult with building or renovating a huge liner and putting it in the ocean and getting the Navy for a few weeks. Anybody that says, pick them up, put them on there. If you have paperwork and a reasonable reason to be here, red carpet. If not, you're going to a detention centre. You're not setting foot on the soil of my country. You are going to go to a detention centre that will not be a four-star hotel, but might get you to message your friends back wherever and say, oh, my God, they're not a soft touch anymore. But the left go, oh, my God, this is outrageous.
Yeah.
Why? I know. I really struggle
absolutely
with
beggars
it.
belief. I mean, I would build one of these detention centres in a green constituency, basically. You know, if these open borders enthusiasts, we know their hypocrisy. The MP down in Crowborough.
My God, Crowborough.
Her name escapes me.
No, I know, Rachel Millward, is it?
That's right, yeah.
Why do we have... I mean, the Greens are in the news today about Zach Polanski, and I made the point that we don't hear anything about the environment. But that story you just touched upon, Crowborough, it will forever resonate with me when we started this show. So, a bunch of women, mothers, concerned about the safety of their teenage daughters, tick, are worried because a migrant hotel, the Bell Hotel in Epping, next door, two men have come out and sexually assaulted two girls. So the council, and I want to salute Crowborough Council like I do every single time, went, no, this is unacceptable, because they go to the court and they win. Our own government, then, Ian says, the rights of migrants are more important than the indigenous population. What bloody hope have you got when you hear that?
And if you stand up for you stand up for yourself, you're branded far right immediately. But I think that I
don't think it's far right.
No, but that label is now losing all its power because anyone who stands up for normal civilised values is branded.
Did you hear what you probably didn't because you're a busy man, but I was saying I did an interview during the last election and a Reform candidate was talking about safer streets, closed borders, more police, lower taxation, all that sort of stuff. And the Tory jumped in and went, that's far right. And I just looked at him and I went, you've lost my vote. That's what we were brought up on. Good conservative, save before you spend, the community, family, all that stuff's gone. It's gone because we've wiped the backside of almost anybody and everybody to the detriment of our own people. And you know what I find really, and it's a great article, Burnham silent on immigration. The Sun, Talk, there aren't many of us that are talking common sense, are there?
No, and that's what the public are increasingly crying out for, isn't it? Just an outbreak of common sense.
I mean, somebody on the left said about this, are you just going to find problems with Andy Burnham? Yeah, I am, because do you know what? I want him to succeed, but I want him to explain how we're going to pay for this utopia that he's talked about. That doesn't make this station far right. It makes this station, I think, the common sense, and I'd say the same about The Sun. Good man. Get it today. The Sun, page 10, Ian Drury. We know all about your Smith's Gold Disc, Burnham, and the scampi fries, but what about the migrant boats? The one thing he has not mentioned by day 9 of being the new Prime Minister. Thank you, Ian Drury. Fantastic article. 10 to 9. Dave, good morning.
Morning, Jazzy. Dave in Stoke. With regard to Burnham and his dead body tax, let's call it what it is. He's going to tax dead bodies. Well, didn't the Conservatives try to do something like this? Labour called it the dementia tax, and all of a sudden it disappeared. Let's call it the dead body tax. He's taxing the dead. Bye.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side.
Yeah, give him a listen. He's sounding fantastic. 4 o'clock, Kevin O'Sullivan on Drive. What is it, 8 minutes to 9? We're live across the UK, and after 2.5 hours of technical crap, it's working. You can leave a voice note. Rossi, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. It's Rossi from Manchester. One of your regular listeners here. Top show as always, even with the problems that you're having there with the old technology. Yeah, this Polanski, he's a nobody. He's trying to draw attention to himself by saying something that's going to get him the attention. And that's all it is. He's a nobody, he's a loser, and the country's seen through him. So to do this, and after that lady got sent to jail, the tweet, mate, they should throw the book at him. They should absolutely throw the book at him. They want to make an example of people in this country and say that they're doing something. Even Andy Burnham now, if he wants to get the attention that he needs, he should be jumping right on this. These are political things, political issues that are to do with it, even if it's crime or whatever. He needs to jump on this right now, and he'll get the British people's attention. Anyway, if we can't have Farage, I'm saying let's go Team JK. Why the hell are you not running for Prime Minister? Because you're saying all the right things, my man. I'll vote for you. This British public, they adore you, mate. Get yourself the candidacy. We're all behind you.
Send him the tenner in the post. Listen, can you imagine me, the Right Honourable Gentleman's a tosser? I'd tell him, seriously, I don't think it's rocket science at all. I could stop the boats, I could sort out welfare, I'd sort out... Honestly, you think I'm joking? Bloody right, there'd be no foreign aid, I'd build prisons, I'd get the Navy in the Channel, honestly. Imagine the rubbish I'd get. Jez, is Norman Collier in charge of the... Do you remember Norman... You don't remember Norman Collier? OK. Norman Collier was fantastic, and he used to... That's what they're saying. Anyway, look, that's past. Jess, I can't understand why you get a lesser sentence if you plead guilty than if you still have committed the crime, says Diane Parr. That's because that's a sensible reaction. Jez, great show on the prisons. Have you seen the Richard Madeley prison documentary in El Salvador? Built in 7 weeks, massive reduction in crime rate. El Salvador now a safer country than the UK, says Dawn in Durham. Can you imagine El Salvador is a safer country than the United Kingdom? Big M, let's do some sport.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
So, very good morning to Justin Allen, Chief EFL writer. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm all very good, Jeremy. Yourself?
Well, not too bad for a balding old has. Oh, there you are. There's you. The Sun Sport always has the news. I know it's not EFL, but shocking. Chelsea, who buy anybody who's about 11, are in the market to buy maybe both Danny Welbeck from Brighton, who's in his 30s, 35, and not Dean Henderson. What's he called? Jordan Henderson, the man who managed to play no part in the World Cup but get booked and break his arm. Is this a major change for Chelsea, my friend?
The future's bright, eh, for Chelsea? Yeah, I mean, the combined age of 71 years old. So next season, we really could see, quite literally, the Chelsea pensioners, couldn't we? But
don't they need that spine? Don't they need experience? Isn't that what they're missing as a team?
Yeah, I think you're right. They do need that experience. I mean, they've spent £226 million so far, haven't they? Obviously, Morgan Rogers has come in for 117. They bought a couple of players from abroad, Marco Palstra, for example, from Atalanta. A lot of good young talent. But, you know, and of course, when you buy more experienced players, they actually cost less. I mean, they're going to get Jordan Henderson on a free, for example. I suppose Danny Welbeck's going to fall around about the £10 million mark. So it makes financial sense. But look at Danny Welbeck. He scored goals for fun last season, didn't he? And I couldn't believe, actually, that Thomas Tuchel didn't take him to the World Cup. Obviously, Henderson might have been handy had he not, jumped over the advertising.
Handy. Very good. Yeah, love it. I just think it's interesting. Chelsea's been run by Blueco as a business. And actually, if you look at any successful team in the land, they obviously need experience. Just one other story quickly. Arsenal in the race for Vinicius Junior from Real Madrid. That would be an astonishing piece of business, wouldn't it?
An absolute marquee signing. If they were to get him, that's the signing of the summer, isn't it? In world football, quite personally. And I think that pretty much would nail them for the Premier League. I really do.
Interesting. Who do you support?
West Ham, Jeremy. West Ham.
Love the boy. We're favourites to go back up. Good news about Jarrod Bowen staying.
Yeah, that's fantastic news. I spoke to his dad, actually, a week before he signed it. He told me he was going to be staying. I mean, they've done a very clever deal there where, you know, he takes a massive pay cut, but he'll get his money back at the end of the season if we get promoted. And if we don't get promoted, he'll leave, really, for next to nothing. But, no, that's great.
With his head held high. Good to see. Justin, sorry, mate. I know it's always a quick thing, but we love having you on, and we certainly love a fellow West Hamite. Good man, thank you. Couple of minutes to 9. We'll kick off the next hour. He says, furiously searching for his paper. We've got a great final hour. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg is on the show. Sir John Curtis and Andrew Lowney. All that after the news at 9, which is next.
Our 5th Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is therefore my honour to declare that the duly elected leader of the Labour Party is Andy Burnham.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
This man has no mandate whatsoever. He didn't stand on the 2024 general election manifesto. You cannot make the biggest change in British politics in 40 years without a mandate from the British people, and it will be only decent, right and proper to call a general election on that issue and to do it now.
Our 5th Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho, the speed this all happened, I know this is a well-trodden debate already, is actually breathtaking. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago he wasn't even an MP. The next he's holding keys to number 10 without the country ever really having a chance to scrutinise him in a prospective prime ministerial arena. Nothing at all. We really know very little.
I think Burnham has to walk a fine line. I think that's probably what's going on.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Just got 9 o'clock. Where have you been? We've had some gremlins, but they are all sorted. On the way, the legend that is Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, former Conservative government minister. But what are we talking about this morning? We're talking about a disgusting, vile image about Nigel Farage and potential execution liked by Zach Balansky. He's just apparently removed it, and the Green Party said there's nothing to see here. I would respectfully suggest Lucy Connolly, none of which I condone that she wrote. She put up a tweet, deleted it, and got 31 months in prison. For the first time in a year, Labour, in a latest opinion poll, leading Reform 28 to 24. What do you make of that? And fears this morning that our new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, is going to instigate a death tax, which means a 10% levy on anything that you leave behind, property or whatever, which basically means, and I'd love your thoughts, you're going to be taxed on money that you might have saved that you've already paid tax on. Also, loads about the early release of prisoners. Elaine says prisons should go back to stripy pyjamas, bread and porridge. Thank you very much indeed. Annie says, I know a bloke in prison. He's got a TV fire stick, an air fryer, a kettle and a phone. What sort of bloody punishment is that? I don't know if I agree with the next bit. Jez, rather than putting non-violent reoffenders in prison, why don't we make them join the military for the length of their service? This would boost our military whilst giving these people real reform and teaching the trade, says Anthony. I understand the sentiment, Anthony, but I don't think the armed forces would want it. Now, I've been saying all morning, please now send your voice notes, but I'm slightly worried about the quality. Morning, Martin.
Morning, Jeremy. Took the grandkids to Chester Zoo yesterday. Great day out, if you can afford it. 100 quid for a family of 4, but anyway, that's another story. Had to walk through some sort of, everybody when you go in there, walk through some sort of metal scanning detectors. And I thought, blimey, is that what our country is coming to? Everybody has to be checked before they go through and go into a big zoo. Thank you, Jeremy. Martin from Worcester.
Couple of things. I want to talk about my kids in a minute. So you can get into this country, am I right in saying you can get in this country without any checks whatsoever, but you can't go, I know they're listening, Vic, you can't go to a zoo without being checked for a knife. So you can come in illegally with whatever you want. But if you want to go to Chester Zoo and see a couple of rhinos, why did I say rhinos? Because they have a big horn. I've no idea. Anyway, that just about sums it up. Talking of which, my wonderful children, who've been away camping for a week with their brilliant mother, are on their way to the pet shop, which concerns me enormously, because the last time they went to the pet shop, they came back with this hamster. I don't know why it's called Stripey, because it's got a stripe in sight. Nobody, right? I am the last person that wanted a hamster. I've moaned about all of these things. What happens when I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to come to work? The only time this blimmin' animal shows its face or its head is and it starts going around. And now I feel sorry for it. But I'm telling you now, Ollie Bolly and Rissy Roo, if you come back with any other animal, I'm moving out. I'm just going to get a text from the wife saying there'll be 3 dogs and 2 cats by the time you don't come home later. Have a great day. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. If you want a man of unbelievable political experience who speaks the truth, you get my next guest. We're delighted to say a very good morning. Please, God, it works. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, how are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm still smarting from all sorts of things, Jacob. We've had technical problems, which fears me when you're on with us, but fingers crossed it'll be all right. Can we start on a serious note?
I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry your cousin lost his job in the reshuffle. You must be feeling for Peter.
Right, listen, Rees-Mogg. Right, listen, OK? Yes, I married the nanny.
Yes.
Right, yes, we've had that. And absolutely, Peter Kyle is nothing to do with my family, all right? Honest to God, every time. Jacob, on a serious note to start and much to talk about, Reform UK have reported Zach Palancy to the police for sharing that terrible photograph. It was basically a T-shirt about Nigel Farage's execution. It showed a guillotine with the slogan, "We're only making plans for Nigel." Couple of points here. I can't even get over how distasteful this is in the wake of Anne Widdecombe's appalling murder. I see it as another example of two-tieredness, because can you imagine, my friend, if somebody on the right had dared to like or anything like this? And one thinks instantly of Lucy Connolly. I don't agree with anything she put in that tweet, but she put up something wrong, she deleted it, and she was imprisoned for 31 months, Jacob.
Yes, the Instagram post that went up was absolutely dreadful, a terrible thing to have put up. I think the difficulty for Reform is that they had Lucy Connolly as a guest speaker at their party conference last year. They had her on the main platform. They were talking about her standing for the party at the next election. And her tweet and this Instagram message are just as dreadful. So I agree with you, we should not have two-tier justice. And as she was prosecuted, it's right that the police are looking into Zach Palancy. But Reform has to be careful of having two-tier views on freedom of speech. When it was Lucy Connolly, they wanted to make her a heroine, which was a stupid thing to do. She is not a heroine. And now it's Zach Palancy, they're saying bring in the police. So I think Reform needs to say very clearly that it was wrong about Lucy Connolly, that her tweet was bad. Otherwise, it has no ground on which to object to Zach Palancy.
Do you believe that Palancy should resign as a party leader, bearing in mind that I suspect that if Kemi Badenoch, Andy Burnham, Nigel Farage did the same, they would be forced to resign? Or is it because he's not an elected MP, Jacob?
Well, he's not a serious figure of any kind. I can't think that his resignation would be helpful to Reform, because he's a very inadequate leader of the Green Party who has made mistake after mistake. I rather think from a narrow party political advantage, the longer he stays there, the less relevant the Greens become.
Very interesting. Yesterday saw a poll by the Move, the More in Common poll. First time in a year, 352 polls that Reform isn't in the lead. And in fact, Labour, 28%, Reform 24%, the Tories moving slightly, 22%. Do you put this down to the Burnham bounce, or do you put this down to questions that have naturally been asked recently about Reform, who seem less on the front foot, Jacob?
I think it's a bit of both. I think that the Burnham bounce is a relevant factor in this, that he's new, he's better at PR than his predecessor, he's offering out lots of sweeties. At every street corner you're getting a sweet from Andy Burnham. At some point that has to be paid for, and that will make people less enthusiastic about Andy Burnham, but for the first days and early weeks that's helping him. And there have been problems with Reform, the source of their donations, their failures in 2 by-elections. It hasn't been plain sailing. They've been making a number of unforced errors, and it seems to me that that is part of the reason their vote's gone down. Oh, thank you so much. God bless you. We've got a supporter, I think. So it seems to me that it's a bit of both.
Interesting. Do you think that, let's talk your experience of politicians, you've been there for a long time. Andy Burnham, you're right, is better at politics than Keir Starmer, but then I think my cup was probably better at politics than Keir Starmer. But I read a criticism from a left-wing presenter the other day that said that Kyle and talk, all they'll do, instead of being positive about Andy Burnham, will dig and all they'll say is, how's he going to pay for it? That is absolutely our responsibility, is it not? Because there will be millions of people, Jacob, who are not invested in politics like we are, who will see those little sweets, as you suggest they be described, and will go, oh, fantastic. The truth of the matter is, if you look at this death tax thing that we're talking about this morning, it is frightening. The Labour government always uses everybody else's money, mainly ours, until they run out, don't they?
You're absolutely right, and the death tax is a terrible idea and desperately unfair. That if a death tax were to come in tomorrow, there will be people who have paid for their own care, possibly sold their house to pay for their care, who will then find of the remnants, the government, the state takes 10%. That is outrageous, it's monstrous, and it's taxed money that people would be having stolen from them. I'm against death duties full stop. I think they should be abolished. But a further death tax is not the answer to social care.
How would you, I mean, I have a really strong view on this, how would you finance the things that need financing? Defence, social care, all sorts of things, but those two spring to mind. I mean, to me, it's really simple, but how would you finance those, Jacob?
Well, you need two things to ensure we can finance what we need to do. The first and the most important is to cut expenditure. In this country, we almost never pay more than 38% of GDP in tax. That when we get to that level, people change their arrangements, they leave the country. See what's happened in Scotland, where they put the top rate up and the income from it comes down. So 38% is about the limit of income for a government. We're currently spending about 45%. We cannot carry on with that 7% inbuilt deficit. That needs to be cut. The second thing you have to do is to grow the economy. And to grow the economy, you need eventually tax cuts, but we can't afford those yet. So what we need to do now is get rid of mad regulations and the utterly lunatic net zero policy that is holding us back.
And presumably also, I mean, I agree with that entirely, is also welfare. And I think this is where we're going to find out the real depth of Andy Burnham, because at £333 billion, for the first time in our history, that bill, and you know this, outweighs what the Exchequer gets back from tax for people that work, which is a message I think is appalling. Now, I reckon Burnham's got political capital, because I think the 400 MPs that parachuted him in, causing the demise of Starmer, know that he's probably their last chance. Has he got, in your mind, a strong enough will or personality to stand in front of the Parliamentary Labour Party and say, for the first time in Labour's history, we are going to do something about the people who are gaming this system to the detriment of our population who go to work? Because there is a massive, massive saving, isn't there?
Yes, the 330 billion includes, of course, pensions, and they're slightly different. But when I was saying we need to cut expenditure, the main target for cutting expenditure has to be welfare. It's become unaffordable. For years we've been keeping expenditure under control at the edges, on the small parts of government expenditure. We cannot go on endlessly giving more money to welfare and more money to the National Health Service. Those are simply not affordable, and if we carry on like this, we will simply not have the economic strength to do it, and we will have emergency cuts, as we did in the 1970s, again under a Labour government.
When I look at the front of the Mail saying he needs 18 billion for social care, I think absolutely about net zero, I think about the welfare budget, and I don't understand the other thing that is, to me, glaringly obvious. Foreign aid, 11 billion. I mean, you know, we've always been a country that does the right thing, but are we not right now in a position where we should prioritise our own people?
Oh, yes, of course we should. I've never been in favour of foreign aid. The old line about it taking money from poor people in rich countries to give it to rich people in poor countries has always seemed to me to be quite opposite. I think you want to invest rather than spend, and have a budget for emergency support for countries that suffer earthquakes or fires or natural disasters, not to be spooning money out to countries that then are very unhelpful towards you.
Couldn't agree more. Just overall, what do you make of Burnham's first week then? No scrutiny, nothing that MPs can argue with him about. He's got a free rein for 6 weeks. I'm not sure how that'll go down with the Chancellor, but it's all worked out rather well for him, hasn't it, at this moment in time?
Well, it's like candy floss, which a lot of people will be having at village fetes at this time of year. There's an awful lot of stuff wrapped around the stick, but it's a very little substance and will disappear pretty quickly.
An upgrade from Starmer, but not difficult. Now, I love you in the nicest possible way. There's a couple of things that I want to ask you about. Look at the look on his face. Don't worry, Jacob, it's fine. Andy Burnham this morning has been talking about universities and you know how Tony Blair's drive to get half of school leavers to attend university has let down a generation. I have to say I sort of agree with that, because I think we've got to a point where there are lots of universities, too many, offering not particularly important things. I need to read this to you. We found out this morning that Bath Spa University, Jacob, can offer you a BA in Contemporary Circus and Physical Performance. The Abertay University, you can do a degree in ethical hacking. And my absolute favourite is Heriot Watt, where you can do a BA in brewing and distilling. It is beyond a joke, isn't it? To all these kids to end up with huge debt to get a degree that really isn't going to give them a job.
Yeah, Bath Spa University was actually my old constituency, so it's a university I know well. And it doesn't only do things as silly as that. But you're quite right. People have taken on huge debts and they've been given degrees that aren't worth the paper they're written on. My caution on this idea that we're going to give people proper technical skills is that governments have been saying that for a really very long time, and they don't seem to manage it. So this is one of those things, as always, it's easier said than done. To give Blair some credit, he said he would get 50% going to university, and he achieved it. So Blair was able to do things that he promised, but I agree with you, in hindsight, it wasn't such a good idea, and you want people to be doing what is suitable for them, not an arbitrary government target.
I sort of want 16-year-olds who perhaps aren't academically switched on, or 18, maybe I'm old-fashioned, to go out to work and graft and climb the greasy pole that way. I think we've lost that. I think there's plenty of kids who, you know, now don't have that, but we could, I don't know, could find that in themselves. Maybe our need. Now, the good thing about you, one of the great things, is you know how to laugh. So to finish, front page of The Sun today, you'll have read this, the female chaplain.
Yes, I did indeed see this. Yes.
Emma Roberts is 54. She says, I look like Andy Burnham, so she's created a TikTok account, I'm Mandy Burnham, which has led me to ask this question all morning, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Who have you been told in the past you look like?
Well, we're here on College Green, Abingdon Gardens, and I was once walking back from the Houses of Parliament when I was still an MP, and you'll be shocked by this. Somebody wound down his window and said to me, Peter Mandelson, you've ruined the country. And I must confess, of all the people I could have been compared to, he was very much bottom of my list.
I'm sure he is. I have to say that we've looked back at this, though. You do know that you've been compared in the past to Charles Hawtrey, the slender comedy actor.
And Walter the Softy.
Yeah, for his roles. And also Walter the Softy, the famous enemy of Dennis the Menace. Which I think is
absolutely right. I think compared to me, those two are heavyweight champions. I wouldn't put myself in such a muscular context. But Charles Hawtrey, I think, was one of the funniest actors. I loved his appearances in the Carry On films.
Mate, it's always a pleasure. We love, Jacob, having you on, and we thank you as ever for your time, and I agree with you. You couldn't have Carry On films now because they weren't politically correct at all, were they? But we appreciate your time as ever on College Green. The legend that is Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Still to come this hour, Sir John Curtis, polling expert and professor of politics. He'll talk about how this latest opinion poll, the More in Common poll yesterday, put Labour in front of Reform for the first time in a year. The Burnham bounce, is it real? Or is it just a blip? And also next, my God, this man's impressive. Author of entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, Andrew Lowney. Next on Talk Breakfast.
to be here with you all in the heart of Manchester this Friday morning at the end of, you know, a fairly big week is just everything to me.
If I have to watch one more saccharine video of him pulling a pint or talking about his favourite bar snacks with John Healy, whatever mawkish, minimalising, utterly moronic, stupid bit of social media tidbit they're trying to throw to us, you know, the sugar to help the Marxist medicine go down.
Hey, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:25. Andrew Lowney and Just a Tick. Loads of you getting involved with... this is because the story of Emma Roberts, the chaplain on the front page of The Sun, who says, I look like Andy Burnham so much so that I've set up a TikTok account calling myself Mandy Burnham. Jacob Rees-Mogg said he understands that he was once said he looked like Charles Hawtrey. You know, he was very, very good in Carry On. Interesting. Alan Hanratty, I hope I've got the right, says, lookalikes in my life, Jez. When I was in my 20s, I looked like Tom Cruise. When I was in my 30s, I looked like Kevin Costner. By the time I was 40, I was giving it full Daniel Craig. And then it started to go wrong. In my 50s, I looked like Nick Nolte. Right now, he said I look like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. Do you want my impression? I'm having a friend round. I can't do it. I was going to... I'm having a friend round for dinner. No, it's crap. OK. 03444... I know it's not funny, but there... Oh, hello. No government should have the right to steal from the dead. Quite right. It's a person's right to leave their assets to their kids or whoever they choose. This is a reaction, of course, to Burnham's death tax that people are saying could happen. 10% on all inheritances. I can't even say the word. How do you say it? Inheritances, yes, that's right. Everybody across the political spectrum is saying, how can that be right, that you are, at death, you're paying tax on money that you've saved, that you've already paid tax on? It's causing real consternation. Paula, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Paula in Liverpool. I don't know about a 10% death tax, but if this country keeps on accepting immigrants the way it is, we'll just have to hand over all of our estate once we die pretty soon. All our wages, just hand a lot over every month. Yeah, that's probably the only solution I can see. Thanks, Jeremy. Paula in Liverpool.
I love her. 9:26, we're live across the UK. Let's say a very good morning to the man who wrote, I have read this book and it is utterly brilliant. If you haven't, go and read it. The Rise and Fall of the House of York, entitled Andrew Lowney. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you.
I am so... Whenever I talk to you, I always think, God, look at the books he's got behind him. Has he written them all? Has he read them all? It's an absolute book reader's paradise, your room, isn't it?
It is. Stalactites, people say. It's just filled with books, run out of bookshelves.
Bless you. The Rise and Fall of the House of York, I wanted to get you on. It's a couple of other raw stories, but there was a story I read at the weekend, and I'd love your take on this. You have quite rightly, I think, in your book, been almost the first person to point out the problems within the House of York. You've pointed out the appalling behaviour of Prince Andrew, and despite many blockages over the years, that's been proven absolutely that you were right. You've also called for his wife, ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, and their kids to have, you know, their day of judgment, because they were obviously involved in this in many ways. I read a really interesting article about Sarah Ferguson, who always seems to me to... She could fall in anything and end up smelling of roses, Andrew. You know the story about Paddy McNally? Have you read that this weekend?
Yeah, I have, actually. I've changed my view on that, having talked to some sources. I don't think she's going to get anything from Paddy McNally. I think he was a wily old bird. He was very keen that his money would actually go to good causes. It wouldn't be tarnished by being linked to her. So I don't think she's going to get anything from McNally, having been understood last week that she might.
This is the story, just for people who perhaps don't know this. When she was in her 20s, a sort of it girl around town, he was this young, aspiring, failed racing driver who set up, actually, at the time Formula One was taking off, I think I'm right, the sort of enclosure paddock restaurants, passes and VIP areas, and made an absolute fortune. He was 25 years older than her, never wanted to marry her, but stayed close, we think, and through all the stuff that has happened to the Duke and Duchess of York, he apparently has been this steadfast support. And there was belief, I think, that he housed her when she was sort of, I call it on the run, but didn't want to be seen for a year. He died. And a friend was quoted as saying, I'm sure he'll look after her in death, but he'll never give her cash because she'd blow it all. He might leave her a trust fund, but you're saying you don't think so now.
No, my information is that he isn't going to taint his reputation by giving her or her daughters any money. You're absolutely right. Over the years, he's been very good to her. She stayed at his house in south of France every year. She has been staying in Verbier, in one of the chalets there. But he has on for his money, and they don't involve Sarah Ferguson. So I think the interesting thing is, I thought this has got the royal family off the hook, that she wouldn't be doing big Netflix interviews and writing books, which I understand she's doing. But I think that's now back on the table. So that must be slightly worrying for the royal family.
Let's talk about that. A little bit of a blip on your thing, but not a problem. Are you telling me that presumably there are publishing houses and television networks that still want this woman's story, despite proven links, if you read the emails that you have talked about for a long time, to the world's worst paedophile, Jeffrey Epstein? Why are people not turning their back on Sarah Ferguson, Andrew?
Well, I mean, there'll always be publishers and TV channels that will want to engage with her. I mean, they will see their ratings and their shoot up. And so I'm afraid there will always be a market for Sarah Ferguson. And she's very good at presenting herself as a victim, not telling the truth. I mean, she's been denying the suggestion she had an affair with P. Diddy, which has now been proved by his own security man coming forward and confirming it. So I'm afraid she's done 3 or 4 different autobiographies, all saying different things, none of them true. And she's just going to continue doing that. Of course, there'll be naive people who will buy into this.
Where are we at? There's a slight blip with you. It doesn't matter, though. Where are we at in terms of... I mean, I read also about the Duke of York the other day. We see these sort of pathetic photographs every now and then of him walking across the countryside on his own. Where are we at? I read the police investigation has either stopped or has gone into reverse and the guy will be protected. We've questioned whether she will be involved and the kids. Where are we at with the whole story, Andrew?
Well, we don't know. The whole thing has gone very quiet. And, I mean, we've had this ridiculous sort of red herring with them going off to the States to see Virginia Giuffre's sister, brother and sister-in-law. We just don't know. I think this has been kicked into the long grass. I mean, there's plenty of evidence in the Epstein files to charge Andrew, and as you say, to get the rest of the family in for questioning. And nothing is happening. The National Crime Agency should be giving a lead on this. They haven't been involved. Police Scotland don't seem to be doing anything, and yet girls were trafficked up to Balmoral. So I'm afraid a classic establishment fudge. The hope that the agenda will move on and everyone will forget.
And I think what's really interesting is you put your neck on the line about the Duke of York and the House of York very early on, and you talked incessantly on this show, actually, bless you, about how, you found every door closed and every barrier that could have been put in your way. I sort of feel, because of the work that you've done, and because quite rightly people are thinking about the victims, that the country and people will not accept it being kicked into the long grass. I just don't think that will be enough for people, Andrew. I really don't.
No, I agree, and I think there is pressure now, from social media. I think that it needs to be a change with the sort of the parliamentary body. Really, they need to begin to bring in legislation. They need to have a parliamentary inquiry into actually Andrew's time as a trade envoy. And I think there does need to be a sense of understanding from law enforcement that this is not something that they can push under the carpet as they have in the past. But, people do feel that Andrew and others need to be held accountable.
And you see the picture there, of course, Mandelson, who's under investigation. We're yet to hear what's happening with that. But I do genuinely... I mean, there's that photo that, for me, nails it. After the guy's been in prison with all the accusations of trafficking young girls and paedophilia and all those things, the mucky mansion, all of those things, that he had the stupidity, the temerity, the arrogance, whatever you want to call it, to go and see that man. And I know, people will talk about the king and he's living with cancer and he's trying to deal with Harry and he's done the right thing by stripping him. But I'm a real firm believer in the British public, which is why books like yours resonate so well. And I just feel like they will make a massive mistake if actually, in your words, they think that people are going to forget. I just don't see it happening, pal.
Well, I hope not. And I think, you know, with pressure from the media, with pressure from social media, I think hopefully they will learn that lesson. But so far, the signs aren't very encouraging. I don't think there's any signs that pilots are cooperating with the police. They've known about Andrew and his activities for years. In fact, it's a point of tension between the King and the Queen, I understand, because the King hasn't been entirely open with Camilla about what he knew. I think the problem is that this is now going to draw in the King, and there could be some very embarrassing disclosures about his cover-up.
Brilliant. Listen, Andrew, it's not the greatest line this morning, but as ever, we massively, massively appreciate you coming on. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't gone and bought and read this book, it's brilliant, entitled by Andrew Lownie, The Rise and Fall of the House of York. 25 minutes to 10, we're live across the UK. How are we lining up today? Alex Phillips is here. She'll be here. Hopefully she'll come in for a sort of handover. It was late yesterday. Have a word. Ian Collins is here from 1 o'clock. Ian Collins. My wife thinks he's like Bond. I reckon he's like Brooke Bond. I'm joking. Basildon Bond's got his own headed naked paper. And Kevin O'Sullivan, it says here, sounding fantastic on Drive with lots of his own ideas. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, welcome back. 25 to 10. Sir John Curtis, polling expert, in a minute. Talk. Rather than putting more, or rather putting the non-violent reoffenders in prison, why don't we make them join the military? We've had that already, Anthony. I have to say, I'm not disagreeing with any of you. I just don't think the military will want to know. By the way, Jezza, you're totally wrong. You took this morning, he said, you can get a degree. Somebody was saying they got a degree in Cornwall in surfing, and we went, oh, my God, like, that's a waste of time. Jack's gone, Jez, I live in Cornwall. I have a friend who set up a surf instruction business following getting a degree in surf science a few years ago. His business is now valued at £3.6 million. So there you are, Kyle. You are, in fact, a complete and utter idiot. What's that voice note? Morning, Derek.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Derek, West Yorkshire. I would just like to agree with all the negative comments about Mr. Polanski. This man should not be allowed in politics. I would respect him more if he talked to the trees. Sack Zach. Thanks, Jeremy. Glad the gremlins have gone. Keep up the good work.
They haven't. Well, they had, and then old Lownie. I think this show this morning has been sponsored by Norman Collier. 24 minutes to 10 morning, Jez. Great show. Reg from Southampton. I'm 71-year-old. I'm an alarm clock Brit. I still drive around Hampshire and Wiltshire. What, just casually? I just get up in the morning, I'm just going to drive around Hampshire and Wiltshire today. Do you deliver anything? Why are you driving so much? Why are you not home? He says, when I was a teenager, Jez, I was a spitting image of Adam Faith, singer and actor in Budgie. Do you remember Adam Faith? Look at them all looking at me. What? What's that? In my 20s, I was told I was a dead ringer for Sting. A dead ringer for Sting. And now in my 70s, I'm told I have a striking resemblance to Jim Davidson. I don't know what to think anymore. I'll tell you what, I've never been told that I look like anybody. Any suggestions? And you can be as rude as you want for the last 20 minutes. Who does Jeremy Kyle look like? 87222. Look at Christian's face. What are you thinking? Anything you can think of, Christian? No? No? Nobody's got any clue. No, you don't. Do I look like anybody at all? No? One of a kind, says Mark, is after a pay rise. 0344 419 1000, text to 87222. Let's say a very good morning to a man who is the ultimate polling expert. Sir John Curtis, how are you, my friend?
Fine, thank you. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm all right. Before we talk about the More in Common poll yesterday, they put Labour in front by 4 points over Reform, first time in a year. Let's just take a little... this is Andy Burnham himself talking about the Burnham bounce and positivity. Have a look.
I wouldn't get carried away by any poll. I'm pleased. I wouldn't get carried away by any poll. I'm pleased to have kind of made a start where hopefully I've connected with people. And I am talking a lot about Britain believing again and getting its hope back, and I'm not going to apologise for that. I think we should have a bit more of a spring in our step. When we see what we are doing to support Ukraine and the collaboration that has just been taking place, you know, we should be proud of our armed forces and what Britain is still doing. I think maybe we've, I don't know, lost a bit of that positivity in recent times, and I am on a mission to bring it back.
He's got some front. He's pointing at the only ship we've got that's actually docked there because it can't leave port because it's knackered. Sir John Curtis, this poll, More in Common, found 28% would vote for Labour if a general election were held tomorrow, 4 points higher than Reform. Is this, my friend, the Burnham bounce without detail, or is this pointing more at the problems that we all know Reform are facing and the fact that they've been less proactive and more reactive in the last few weeks, John?
The answer is that both things are going on, Jeremy. If you take Labour's position now, on average in the polls, we've got one poll that has Labour ahead, but we've had 5 companies who've been polled since Andy Burnham became Labour leader last Friday week and Prime Minister last Monday. On average, they put Labour at 25%. If you compare that the position where Labour were at the time that Keir Starmer announced he was resigning as Labour leader, that's 6 points up. Frankly, that is not particularly dramatic for when a Prime Minister gets replaced by somebody new. If you do this similar calculation, for example, when Gordon Brown replaced Tony Blair back in 2007, Labour's vote went up by 7 points as compared with the position before Mr Blair stood down. Boris Johnson has got a similar around 6 point gap or so. So basically, this is roughly what we would expect. It's come in 2 halves. The first half is that the fact that Keir Starmer said he was going already began to instigate something of a bounce for Labour, and by the time that Mr Burnham was elected Labour leader, Labour were already 2 points up, but there's been another 4 points added to that in the polls that have come recently. So that's point one. Labour definitely up, nothing spectacular, it's what you would expect, and they are still only at 25%, which is the lowest share of the vote in the polls for any incoming Prime Minister becoming Prime Minister in the middle of a parliament. But it's also true that support for reform is down independently of Labour's rise, which is predominantly, particularly the polls in the last week, are essentially saying that what Labour are doing with the Burnham bounce is squeezing the Liberal Democrats and the Greens and not so much reform. But you can pinpoint it very, very clearly. Immediately before the first stories appeared about Nigel Farage and Reform's financial affairs, and the day when Nigel Farage announced he was resigning as an MP and precipitating the Clacton by-election. At that point, when he made that announcement, Reform were running at 27%. The polls immediately afterwards saw Reform fall down to 24%. They're now running at about 25%. And the truth is, it's therefore not just been relatively good news for Andy Burnham, it's also been relatively good news for the Conservatives, because they are now losing somewhat less support to reform than they were a month ago, and they've got themselves to 20%. Now, nothing very spectacular, but it's the first time for a year that the Tories have managed an average of 20% in the opinion polls. So there is a separate story about Nigel Farage and Reform, and there's also another story about Labour and Burnham.
It's interesting. You always said that Reform had peaked. I remember when we were talking and they were at 32 or 35%, these latest polls bringing them down, as you said. Some would say that's natural, Reform supporters. The Tories, as you quite rightly say, would would be saying, look, there's no doubt Kemi is cutting through, but maybe now, for the first time in 2 years, 3 years, the Tory party as an entity are proving more popular. You've got the Farage thing about Clacton. In terms of reform, can they get it back, or is that slide permanent in your mind, my friend?
Well, I mean, nothing is inevitable in politics. You know, the truth is that it does look as though reform have been damaged by the various media stories surrounding them. We have to see how they come out. We have to wait and see when, assuming Mr. Farage does win the Clapton by-election and the parliamentary inquiry into what he did and didn't declare comes to a conclusion, whether or not any of the investigations instigated by the police, whether any of this goes anywhere or not. But in the meantime, certainly for some voters at least, it seems to be a little bit of a bad smell, and certainly Nigel Farage's personal popularity is down. And reform are very heavily dependent on his ability to cut through to the electorate. But, you know, reform can trust that none of this ends up going anywhere, that in the meantime, the Labour Party finds it difficult to maintain the balance that they've so currently achieved under Andy Burnham, that Kemi Badenoch doesn't make much progress, and reform therefore edge back up again. I mean, there's nothing inevitable in politics, but sure, it does mean that for the first time, these two things together, that on average, Labour and Reform, they're both at 25%, and this is the first time when, you know, a collection of polls suggests that Reform no longer have a lead over everybody else. But it does, of course, mean our politics are still extremely fragmented. Greens now down to 11%.
I was going to say, yeah, I was going to say.
Very sharp decline in Green support, but the lowest we've got the Liberal Democrats and the Greens at 11%, and at the top we've got Labour and Reform at 25%. Frankly, we still are looking at a very fragmented picture, albeit one that not necessarily our Reform are dominating to quite the same extent as they were a few months ago.
As you said, for me, there's so many different plates that can be spun. If you're Andy Burnham, it is absolutely essential, in my mind, that you tackle the one thing that he refuses to acknowledge 9 days in, which is the boats, because I absolutely categorically believe that the majority of people in this country want an answer to illegal immigration, whatever your political persuasion. So if he does one of those things that we've talked about, maybe faces up to telling his party they need to cut welfare or getting rid of net zero, starting that, I can see him going further. If it is just, in the words of Jacob Rees-Mogg, sweets to give out this week because there's no scrutiny, there's no parliament, there's no detail, that will turn. Reform, undoubtedly, in my mind, my advice would be they need to start being proactive. They're patently on the back foot. They've disappeared into themselves, and we're not hearing those announcements that we used to hear, which sort of galvanised their following. The Tories will be saying Kemi Badenoch is the most likely to be most favourable as a Prime Minister. They'll be saying, can we, with these polls, believe that the toxicity that surrounds this party is starting to ebb away? But as you say, everything to play for, and fragmented would be an understatement. The uni-party thing gone, and you might well end up, and you said this to me a year ago, where you've got three parties with 25% of the vote, and then it's who does what, does the right wing organise itself, etc., etc. But, John, fascinating, and as ever, we can't predict anything, can we, my friend?
No, sure. It's highly uncertain. I think one of the ironies, actually, of Nigel Farage's decision to fight the Clacton by-election, together with the refusal of the other main parties to fight that contest, is that, in effect, it's made it very difficult for broadcasters to put Nigel Farage on air until that by-election is over, because they then have to say, well, who else do we put up out of a myriad of what
you know what I said, though, don't you, John?
Fighting the by-election.
John, you know what I said? The day after that announcement, whether I think it was the right thing or not, Kemi Badenoch went on air and said, I will stand a candidate in the next by-election. And, of course, everybody jumped up and went, so you're saying by that you already think he's going to be found guilty by the Parliamentary Standards Committee that could have taken a year? It's fascinating stuff, and that's why shows like this and your job continue. But we thank you as ever, John. And Rob from Newcastle says, I love the mad professor. He talks more sense than anybody else. There you go.
Very kind of you, Jeremy. Very
Thank you, my friend. John Curtis there. Talking of Rob, this is really interesting. Just texted me. Jez, the first person with the good sense to abolish inheritance tax will win much favour with the country. It's a dishonest, illogical, nasty tax. People pay enough, and everyone at every level should be allowed to leave their house to their own kids and help them in the future. It makes me sick to see people worry that getting old creates more problems with the money they have, having already paid tax. My advice to reform, says Rob, would be to get on the front foot, you and Farage, and announce that you wouldn't do that. Well, I think Robert Jenrick said they would abolish inheritance tax. Sorry, I'm in the middle of the show, and some very, very old bloke who used to work for me before he was consigned to the dustbin of history has just waved at me. You're out of prison then, Levine, are you? Talk breakfast back in 3.
My intention to run for a 4th term as President of the United States. I won 3 times, did very well the 2nd time, by the way. It's a rigged election, but we don't have to talk about it.
It's an entire community in their heads, and he knows how to push it and literally send them off. I thought he was actually more restrained last night than we've seen in just his regular speeches. I mean, he's got comedic timing. He is the funniest president we've ever had, and man, he was playing it on all fours last night.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, we've done all the serious stuff, and thank you very much, Steve, for your involvement. We've now got on to lookalikes. Front page of The Sun today, brilliant. Emma Roberts is a female, am I allowed to say that? She's a female vicar. People said, you look like Andy Burnham, so she created a TikTok account. It's not the most interesting, but there you go. Pretending to be Mandy Burnham, where she starts to preach. It's fine. Which led us to ask who you look like. So I've made the big mistake of saying, who do I look like? Jeremy Carlo's always looked like a Thunderbird. John Tracy, definitely not Brain, says Andrew in Salisbury. Hi, Jeremy, you remind me of actor Jeremy Renner. I'm not going to do the obvious thing. He was very, very badly injured, wasn't he? Yeah. I think, says Nicky Hewitt, you look like that old bloke who used to do that dodgy morning show on ITV for 15 years. Loving the show, by the way, says Nicky in Murcia. Murcia in Spain. Why did I do that? Murcia. I don't know. Lovely. Jez, you look like Sean Pertwee. Is that the son of John Pertwee, who was... what was the scarecrow called? Miss Sally. Wurzel Gummidge. Great, I look like Wurzel Gummidge's son. Jeremy, you look like Sam the American Eagle. What, who's Sam the American Eagle? Many years ago, Jez, I had a mate who... A Muppet? I look like a Muppet. Many years ago, I had a mate who looked like Sprinter Alan Wells. Now he looks more like Orson Welles. Morning, Jezza. You do have a slight resemblance to Reg Varney. What, from On the Buses? Brilliant. Bert from Tooting. Jez, you look like Tintin. Brilliant. Not sure who you look like. But you could have been the love child of Mr. Burns and Rachel Reeves, says Mark in Staffordshire. But I'm going with this. I don't care what anybody says. Thank you, Clive Philpott. You win the prize of the day. I think you, Jezza, look like Steve McQueen. Or just a Queen. 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. Couple of calls before finish. Mary is in Barnstead. Good morning, Mary. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Jeremy. Wonderful show.
Who do you look like?
Oh, I look like my mother. You don't look like anybody but yourself, and children haven't aged you, so I suppose that's a good thing.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you. I don't look like my mother because she's dead, but the reason that I look okay on 60 is I haven't moved my face in 20 years, OK? So I'll do it now for people on YouTube. Jeremy Kyle looks shocked. That's it. It's no good. So what do you want to say?
The call is in regards to the death tax. My question is, would it apply to the low earners under the tax threshold? Also, what about people that have been historically on benefits for years and never have worked?
Interesting.
Does it only apply to people that have worked to provide for themselves, you know, having assets, private pensions? You know, is it...
It doesn't sound fair, does it? It sounds to me, again, like a Labour ploy to basically have a go at anybody who aspirationally, I think, has done something to not just improve their life, but work, save and do the right thing. Mary, we love your support in Banstead. Thank you very quickly. We'll go to Manchester. Terence, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Who do you look like?
Now, at age 82, I think he looked like a bit like Churchill still in the round.
Well, I can't do you lot in the mornings. You're doing me head. What do you want to say, quickly?
About the death tax.
Yes.
Does it apply to a married couple where the first spouse dies, they pay 10%, then the second one dies, they pay 10%?
I don't know. It's not a very happy subject, is it? It doesn't seem very fair to me. Does it seem fair to you?
It's not, because I'm working it out. Well, I've worked something out. On an estate of £1 million, which is not very much in London.
Yeah.
Under this system that we're on now, they would pay 270,000 tax.
Yeah.
On the new system they were on the bring in, they would pay £384,000 tax.
40%. Can I ask you a question very quickly? You're from Manchester. Andy Burnham saved Manchester, didn't he?
Not really.
No, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Lovely. Thank you for coming on. Let's go to... Notice I have to steer now and I've started dribbling. It's all going wrong. In London, Lynn, good morning.
Hello.
Who do you look like?
Really? Oh, no, I'm just too good to look like anybody, actually.
Oh.
Anyway, you look like Des O'Connor.
I look like Des O'Connor?
You've got the same mouth.
Jeez. I look like Des O'Connor. It's the Botox. Right, Lynn, what you got for me?
No, I ain't got nothing for you. I just want to say what you look like.
Why do I look like Des O'Connor?
Oh, no, I think it's the mouth that does it. It is the mouth.
I can't... That's why I'm dribbling. I've turned it... You see, that's the reason I dribble, as Christian just said, because the Botox... I can't say... What did Des O'Connor ever sing? Can we think of a Des O'Connor song, Lynn?
No, I can't. I just thought you look like him.
Well, thanks for your involvement and thanks for the insulting call. Bless you. We love you. Liz Armstrong's in Flamborough. You sure that should be Farnborough? Is there such a place called Flamborough? I went to grammar school in Huddersfield in the 60s. We had a girls' high school, a boys' college and a mixed secondary modern on the site. People who didn't get O and A levels on their exams were offered a place at technical colleges to learn trade skills for work. These all stopped when comp schools were introduced and everybody was being pushed into going to universities. These should be brought back into education for all the kids sat at home now. Should be made to learn some skills. Couldn't agree more. Liz, he must have had... the story today of a Palestinian protester who last year scaled Big Ben, refused to come down for 17 hours, cost the British taxpayer 92 grand. The judge the other day said that the man, Daniel Day, no, not Lewis, who was unemployed, shouldn't be prosecuted because he had failing eyesight. So the fact that he climbed up Big Ben with failing eyesight made me wonder whether, in fact, the truth is he thought he was climbing up a stepladder. He must have had terrible eyesight if he couldn't see the time and the size of that bloody clock, Miss Reg Gardner. Chrissy says... my mental health has sunk to the floor listening to Burnham, to be perfectly honest. Will he pick our expat pensioners next? They'll be in for it. Listen, thank you for all your messages and all your... here's the lady who looks a bit like Cameron Diaz. Good morning.
I look like Cameron Diaz.
You do. In sliding
doors. You need to check your eyesight.
Why, what's wrong with it? Look, I can't move my face. My teeth are fake. What do you want me to do with my eyes?
Sliding Doors was Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, God. Was it? With the... yeah. Who do
Something about Mary.
Thank you.
Have I got, like...
Who do you get told you look like? You're looking very nice this morning. Who do you get
Oh, I
told?
thank you. No one. Me. Myself.
And I.
And I.
How
I
are
don't know.
you?
Do I ever look like... Who do you get told you look like?
Dick-a-dum-dum is what Tess O'Connor sung. Dick-a-dum-dum-dum, dick-a-dum-dum day. I'm having one of those mornings. Have you heard about the Palestinian who climbed up Big Ben? Have you heard that story?
Yeah, well, this is it. It's my get-out-of-jail-free card now because I need bins. So I'm like, that's it. I'm just going to go on a murder spree and be like, well, can't see. Can't see.
And Holly Willoughby has launched a new YouTube channel where she cooked courgette pasta with Stanley Tucci. It has been panned to the point where the critics have said that Meghan's show looks good compared to Holly Willoughby's.
Oh, no.
It's not great, is it?
Bad times.
Thanks for coming in. Anyway, what's on the show this morning, Alex Phillips? Legendary. She's made up a treat this morning. You going out later?
No, not really.
What do you mean, not really? What does not really mean? You've got a new man? You've gone red,
no,
you've got a new man, haven't you?
Jeremy, no, I have not.
Yes, she has. Look at her
absolutely
face.
have
She's done
not.
her makeup.